Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on the Owen Report today. All right, another dramatic day for the Trump administration on multiple fronts. But I have to say, it was a much-needed good day for the Trump administration. It was a much-needed good news day, and it's hard. I think it's hard for a lot of people to trust this administration right now, and I can certainly understand why. I think there's going to be some interesting coverage of the big news today. The arrest of the January 6th pipe bomber, or the suspect, the alleged January 6th pipe bomber, has been arrested. An interesting timeline of events that leads up to this. The 4 years of inaction. The interesting little tidbits that we got throughout those years. Then the news breaking where some people believed that they had identified who it was, a lady that was a police officer. Well, I guess the administration is now debunking that today, or they're claiming they don't believe that. Pam Bondi says that they were live bombs. It's really interesting. I'm going to hold off on all of that. I'm going to let that coverage play out. And they were clear during the press conference today that there's a lot of more news that's going to come out as far as the details that led to this arrest. But I can understand the hesitation. I can understand the skepticism. But either way, this was a much-needed good news day for the administration. Arresting a suspect in the January 6th pipe bombing case was something they needed. They needed something to wave a flag and say victory. Now, we'll see what comes of that. The other good news, the Trump Institute of Peace, it opened today. There was a ceremony there with President Trump, and they were celebrating the peace deal that was signed between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, a 30-year conflict, millions killed. President Trump was proud of this. He brought in a large team of international leaders that were a part of this deal, including, most notably, Qatar and Qatar's leadership that he was very thankful of, very, very positive on Qatar's efforts. And apparently Qatar is still leading efforts with some other ongoing struggles or skirmishes or conflicts in the region, in Africa. Qatar is still on top of that. I think there's some leftover rebel groups that have kind of gone rogue that Qatar is trying to figure out. So this is what Qatar is up to. Meanwhile, of course, you have the same attacks as more and more, I guess you could call it Qatari involvement. This is a new phenomenon that we're seeing. Is it organic? Is it really new? Is it just the response to people starting to take issue with the current situation with Israel and its influence on our foreign policy and our Congress and leadership? I don't know, but Qatar is definitely all over it again. And you have all of these Trump supporters, I don't know how else to say it, but they hate Qatar. They think Qatar is the biggest enemy in the world. And there's Donald Trump up there fluffing them. So that's interesting to see. So those are kind of the two big news stories. But there's a lot of other developments. We've got an Epstein development from the House investigation today. You've got Jim Jordan making an announcement last night as far as Jack Smith is concerned. We'll put that side by side with what Trump said about Jack Smith lately. The situation with the Department of War and Pete Hegseth and this general continues to get more interesting. Things are heating up in D.C. And you may remember that old headline of the walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. Well, it's like the boy that cried wolf. Because now I start to wonder if some walls aren't starting to close in.
This news update was brought to you by OwenSchroyer.store, the official site for Owen Report merchandise.
All right, folks, if you've been listening here, you know that I've been telling you, if you haven't done anything to take care of an emergency food supply at your house, I mean nothing, you have zero on the board, 0 boxes checked. Now is the time to do it at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. And here's why. Look right on the screen. The Black Friday Survival Special is still live. I think somebody's fallen asleep over there, folks. I got to tell you. I think somebody at My Patriot Supply has fallen asleep. I can't believe this deal is still live. If you have done nothing for emergency preparedness, this is the best deal you're going to get. It covers so many boxes. Obviously, the emergency food supply, a 4-week emergency food supply, highest quality, plus the highest quality containers, by the way, ready to be stored, plus $150 worth of free gifts, including everything you need to prepare your emergency meals, like a cook stove, fuel, fire starters, a water filter, bug out bag, and so much more. It's the complete survival kit your family needs to ride out natural disasters, civil unrest, or anything worse. It also makes a great Christmas gift. Take care of your friends. Take care of your family for Christmas with this still live Black Friday Survival Special. It's almost a week later. So before somebody wakes up over there at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen, you might want to take advantage of this sale, folks, while it's still live. A ridiculous discount if you've done nothing. If you've done nothing to have emergency food and an emergency kit preparedness in your house, this is the best way to start it. Take care of the emergency food. Take care of the emergency supplies. Get the highest quality with the best price from American Patriots at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen.
On the cutting edge of news and analysis, the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer. Play the game, kid.
Well, there's no denying it. There's no denying it. The Trump administration needed a good news day. And it's probably fair to say that they got one. They got one today. And I understand the skepticism, the skeptical nature of it all, believe me. And the two big events today that I would say were good. And believe me, you know me, I'm going into this stuff like, very disenfranchised, very discontent. So I'm not exactly sitting down in my season ticket holder seat for the Trump show, very pleased at this time. But I got to say, today was a good news day for Trump. Now, we'll have the debate on what it all means and everything, but as far as general public consumption, general public presentation, general headlines, to see what the administration is doing, it was a much-needed good news day for the president and the administration today. Now, let's start with I guess you could say it was the inaugural event. There didn't seem to be much ceremony over it, though President Trump was extremely impressed. He had mentioned, in fact, I think he said he'd never been in such a beautiful building in his life. Quite a thing for Donald Trump to say. At the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace building today, where leaders from around the world were meeting to sign and commemorate the deal that Donald Trump helped negotiate with leaders in Qatar and others, a peace deal from a 30-year conflict with the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. And millions of people have died. Now, there's going to be probably some follow-up headlines about how, well, maybe the war isn't over and the conflicts are still ongoing. Well, this was such a long, enduring conflict that there were so many different rebel groups and different proxy groups that I think some of them have just gone rogue. And so they've kind of, the presidents of these countries have essentially lost control. Now, it sounds like you have some other leaders from the Gulf nation states, including Qatar, that are actively trying to negotiate a peace between all of them, which could raise some questions. But that's where it's at. But the actual diplomatic leaders and the actual presidents of the countries were there today, commencing this, celebrating this, claiming it's a done deal. So we'll see what type of coverage follows and the doubters and all of that. But other than that, I think it was good. President Trump was solid today. His presentation, his speech, and even though, look, I'll sit here and kind of shake my head and roll my eyes because I'm sick of all the foreign. I'm sick of all the foreign policy. I'm sick of all the foreign prioritization. But I'm not going to furrow my brow at peace deals getting done. If they're legitimate peace deals, if it's not just hype. But it looks like no, these are legitimate deals, or at least the attempt or the establishment to bring about peace. So I'm not so bitter here. I'm not so black-pilled. I'm not so doomer-pilled here that I can't celebrate Trump accomplishing peace and stopping killing. I will always celebrate that. The presentation today was good. Getting all the global leaders together to talk about peace and ending these conflicts and wars is good. And while it's a little conflicting with some of the other things we're seeing from this administration, but you heard it at press conferences yesterday and then today, talking about how this administration is no longer in the business of forever wars, and they're not in the business of losing wars. Now, I would argue that our foreign policy currently suggests otherwise, but nonetheless, at least that's what they're saying. So they're accepting that, yes, our foreign policy has been corrupt. Yes, our strategy as far as military intervention has been bad. So at least they're admitting that. Are they really changing it? I don't know. I would probably say no. But at least they're recognizing the faults from the past. So, okay, I'm not going to complain. I'd like to see the issues that are hurting America get solved first. I'd like to see the deep state arrests and everything else we talk about. I'd like to see that happen first. But I'm not going to scold the president for trying to get peace deals done. So that's a good development, a much needed positive day for the Trump administration, I would say. So then on the other side, so that's what Trump was up to today with the foreign delegation that was at the Trump Institute of Peace. Trump hosts signing of peace deal between leaders of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. And you can see all the photos and ceremony from the beautiful Trump Institute of Peace. But I got to say, Trump was building this building up, building the building up. There's one for you. Trump was hyping this building up as the most beautiful building he's ever seen, he said. I want to see this damn building. I didn't see any pictures of all the people that were there. It sounded very ornate. Is that even a real thing? It sounded ornate. It was the echo. There was something about the echo when Trump was talking that sounded very ornate and very exquisite, very traditional, classical. He should have had Pavarotti show up. The ghost of Pavarotti starts singing. Or he brings out these opera singers to his events. He should have had one come out to this peace deal. He could have sang in this beautiful new Trump Institute of Peace with the echo. It would have been fun. But you know what? He doesn't have me advising him, so he missed out on that. But that's okay. So you had that going on. On the other side of D.C., inside the Trump administration, you had this. FBI arrests suspect in 2021 D.C. pipe bomb case, authorities say. So you had Jeanine Pirro, you had Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and others up there today for a press conference where they talked about the D.C. pipe bomber. Now, of all of this, you know, I don't want to, I'm not trying to be negative about this today because This is a positive development. But I can't help but have some questions. I know I'm not the only one that's going to have questions, and I anticipate a lot of people are going to even doubt this entire story. Now, I'm not there. I'm not there. Because I'm going to say, hey, you know what? In what's been a lot of downward trending from this administration, today's a good day. The peace deals, the arrest, the suspect of the January 6th pipe bomber. I want to say, okay, today is a good day. They got these things done. But I'm still a healthy skeptic. I thought Dan Bongino was the best today at the press conference by far. Actually, by far, it was the best, most confident Bongino has looked in a long time. And when I'm listening to them talk about this, and again, there were a lot of details that were left out of this press conference, and they were saying we're doing this intentionally. I'm fine. You know what? I believe that. As long as we get the follow-up and as long as we get the details to emerge, like you said they were, then I'm fine with that. Now, if we go a week or 2 weeks or months without that, then all of a sudden we're gonna get a little more skeptical here. We're gonna get a little louder in our skepticism. But they said they couldn't give us any details today for whatever reasons. All right, fine, I'll accept that. You just made the arrest. I'm not gonna get too much on your case. And they say there were no new tips. There was no new information. They used the same research, files, everything that was left over from the 4 years of the Biden administration. That's what they used to track this guy down. That alone might raise some skepticism, but that's what they're saying. Good old-fashioned police work, good old-fashioned investigative work. So if that's true, that's an elbow grease effort. I say good for you guys. And maybe if that's the case, maybe that explains a lot. Maybe that explains why so much in this Department of Justice has been held up and clogged up. Because they've been sifting through all of this stuff trying to get the January 6th pipe bomber. And it's basically been taking up all of their resources as far as time and personnel are concerned. Now, that's kind of the vibe I got from Bongino. Again, Bongino was the one who came off strong and confident today. And I'm sorry to say, but Pam Bondi just continues to be legally blonde Barbie Attorney General. It's just, it ain't working for me. Another press conference where she just comes off aloof, disconnected, but just there to smile and, tell you it's so great. Like a golden retriever. She's like the golden retriever of this administration. So I wasn't impressed by Bondi at all. Patel, what's so strange about Patel is, forget about the things that he said in the past and then the things that he might be saying or doing now. You know what? You're a different person when you become the FBI director. All right? You're a different person. So maybe, you handle things a little differently than you would if you're an author or a podcaster. So I can accept that. What's odd to me about the before and after with Patel is just the body language. He just seems so, and maybe it's the scrutiny, maybe it's the heat that he's under now that he's the FBI director, but he just seems so nervous. The charisma is gone. Whereas Bongino got up there today and it was like, okay, that's the Dan Bongino that we've watched for years host his show. Love him or hate him, think he's cringe or the best, whatever. That's him. That's him. Patel just kind of still comes off as nervous. The spotlight has his knees knocking. I don't know. Maybe it's just all of a sudden he's lost his skill and charisma for public speaking. Wasn't strong from Patel. Jeanine Pirro got up there and she gave her normal Jeanine Pirro, TV professional presentation. So she was fine, and she was a little late to the party anyway. But hey, okay. All right, we got the peace ceremony. We're inaugurating the new Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. It's a beautiful building. All right. We've arrested the suspect in the January 6th pipe bomb case. All right. Now, here's what I anticipate, and we'll see, because now so many, we may get to this later in the show, and I noticed that there's a lot of other people in the podcast world, the broadcast world, however we want to call it these days, live streaming world. I notice a lot of people are seeing that numbers are down across the board as far as political content, news content, podcast content. And that's normally a trend in an off year. And that's normally a trend, especially around the holidays, outside of the big travel days, when numbers might go up while people are driving or flying and they want to listen to a podcast or a radio show. I think it's going to be curious to watch the response now. It's going to be curious to watch the response of the people that have been really covering the January 6th pipe bomb story for 4+ years, that have done a lot of due diligence to get a lot of details out to the public. They've worked with members of Congress. They've worked with other inside sources. And I don't think they're going to be satisfied with this today. I'm going to be honest. I don't think they're going to be satisfied. I don't think they're going to be convinced. I'm laying off until they do their follow-up press conference, which they've assured us will happen. So I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see as far as, let's get the details that they've promised us today, that they said they couldn't give us today, but that they're going to have follow-up press conferences on. Now, if they fail to deliver on that, my ire will be raised, let's say. My curiosity will peak. But right now, I'm willing to say, all right, you got your suspect. You tell me you can't show the details right now, but you're going to follow up with all the details. I'm willing to trust you, and I'm willing to give you that chance. What do we think, guys? I'd say a month. I'd say a month max. Maybe I'd give you some bonus days since we got the holidays coming up. But I'd say by the end of the first week in January now, you need to do a follow-up press conference on this. And if not, then maybe I'm going to start having some issues and some questions too. And I already know where the questions are going to be. I already know where the issues are going to be because I've been covering this story for years too. But I'll go ahead and wait. Here's what's going to be curious. Are people so checked out from the political news, or are people so checked out from the gung-ho, let's follow everything the administration is doing because everything is meaningful, everything is impactful? Because now that's kind of flatlined. That's kind of flatlined. So you've got the normal trend of the media and the holidays and the off year of election cycles, and really so much of the content on the right has become so boring and so watered down. It's basically just state propaganda at this point. So people are tuning out. They don't want anything to do with it. Not this show, by the way. Not this show. So it'll be interesting to see. If I don't see a big response to this, which so far I've not, I have to tell you, so far I have not. If I don't see a big response to this story, it tells me that people are checked out. They're checked out. They're bored. They don't care anymore. The magic is gone. The magic is gone. And I've said that for a while. But to me, this is a big test. This is a big test of what magic do we have left. Now, I'm going to bring up some other stories today. We've got James Comer talking about an Epstein investigation. We've got Jim Jordan talking about a Jack Smith investigation. So there's other things that are popping up right now where it's like, if the magic was there, if the MAGA magic was there, if the Trump magic and everything that got us to this point with 2016 and 2020 and 2024 and all of that magic, if these stories don't pop like they normally would, then it tells me the magic is gone. Now, I'm already convinced the magic is gone. But let's just say maybe there's a faint pulse. Let's just say maybe there's a little magic left in that wand. Maybe there's a couple spells left. But if I don't see this deal pop, with the January 6th bomb suspect, the Epstein money investigation, and the Jack Smith investigation, it tells me the magic is gone. It tells me that this administration has lost its magic. It's lost the people. They're disinterested. You'd think this would be huge. You'd think this January 6th pipe bomb suspect getting arrested would be huge on both sides of the aisle, by the way. The Department of Justice is going to get really creative now in how they charge this individual. And don't be surprised if they charge this individual with attempted assassination of maybe the vice president or others. Don't be surprised one bit if the DOJ goes that far with their charges here. I would probably actually bet on that. So they're going to get real creative. And again, they've claimed that they're going to make their case to the public with the details. They couldn't do it today. It's a curious timeline of events that lead up to this, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt here. But as I'm seeing this and I'm looking at everything that's trending on social media and I'm just monitoring the normal cycle today, folks, it's barely a blip. It's barely a blip. You'd think this would be one of the bigger stories. And Pam Bondi really wanted to emphasize, these were live bombs. She really emphasized that. She made sure that everybody knew these were live bombs, which I think is going to raise some questions of its own. But again, we'll wait. We'll wait to get these details. And I'm seeing this. Nobody's even talking. You know what's trending? You know what's trending today? This is how crazy it is. And again, it tells me the magic is gone. It tells me the interest is gone. And people just look at Trump as any other normal administration. Oh, just politics is normal. Just corruption is normal. Nothing changes here. Oh, they do this. They say this. It means nothing anymore. That's what it tells me. You know what's trending today on X? Again, I mean, folks, these are huge stories. These are real developing stories here. The peace deal in Africa with all the world leaders there at the Trump Institute of Peace inauguration of the building. Okay, maybe you don't think that's such a big deal. It's a pretty big deal, though. All right. The January 6th pipe bomber, live bombs. I mean, this is a huge terrorist. This is a huge story. Okay. All right, maybe people don't pay attention to all the stuff in Congress. They don't know about the new Epstein investigation. Maybe people don't pay attention to all the stuff in Congress. They don't know about the new Jack Smith investigation. All right. Everybody, if you're on social media today, you saw the Trump peace deal. You saw the January 6th pipe bomber getting arrested, or the suspect getting arrested. But you know what's trending today? It's all over social media. If you're looking at it right now, I got it pulled up on my screen. You know what's trending right now? Candace Owens and Turning Point USA. That's what's trending on X. Now, I've got a little bit of that. In my stack today. But measuring people's interest is a good way of measuring politics. If people are less interested in these major developments inside of the administration today, and these major developments inside of these congressional investigations today, and these major geopolitical developments with the Trump peace deals today, if people are disinterested in these developments today, it tells me the magic is gone. Nobody buys it. Nobody cares. They think it's all empty. They think it's all hollow. They don't expect any real results. And instead, they're talking about Candace Owens and TPUSA, who apparently were going to have a debate, and then they're not going to have a debate. Now, do you care about that? It's kind of media hype to me. It's kind of like, HBO boxing promotions to me. And I'm fine with it. Let's have the debate. It's good content. It's a big story. People want to see all the different stories and sides and angles, the conspiracy theories. Put it all out there. But what are we talking about here? We're talking about Candace Owens versus TPUSA. That's what we're talking about. That's what's trending. That's what's hot. So it tells me the magic is gone, folks. It tells me the magic is gone. It tells me that people don't really take this administration seriously anymore. It tells me that people don't expect any results, or the results that they're getting are hollow, shallow, meaningless. That's what it tells me. And I get it. I totally get it. I had to recognize that in myself as I'm watching this today, just to be able to consume it in a fair, neutral fashion, to say, hey, this is good news today. This is a win for the Trump administration today. Let's see how they follow up with it. But I understand people are so bitter. They're so turned off. They're so disenfranchised. They're so disgusted. It means nothing. It means nothing to them anymore. And you know what's funny? There was a viral video of Scott Bessent. They have this New York Times. It didn't make the final stack today. I do have a different clip from it. I do have some other news from this New York Times event. But there's this viral clip of Scott Bessent up there talking about the New York Times or the general media cover-up of the Biden health situation. And I'm sitting there, and it's so funny because it's like you juxtapose, here's Pam Bondi, the attorney general, who's just like this blonde bimbo, flipping her hair around, blinking her eyes, oh my gosh, and the suits and the night, so cute. And it's so cringe at this point. Like, it's just so cringe at this point. It's like, I can't even stand listening to Pam Bondi. It is how bad it is. And I don't think I'm alone in that either. I think there's a lot of people that are in the, I'm sick of Pam Bondi. I don't want to see her anymore. And then there's Scott Bessent on the stage, and it's like, Scott Bessent, it's like, we need people that can communicate from this administration well. And Bessent is somebody that sometimes goes on the news and sometimes goes to these conferences. And he's just one of the best communicators. He's one of the best speakers. And it's like, why can't we get that? Instead, we have this new press pool at the Department of War and the Pentagon. It's just a bunch of bimbos. Hey, I get it. I like hot chicks too. Okay, let's just fill the administration with hot chicks and bimbos and call it a day, right? That's how we save the country. No, but it's like, here's the new Department of War, and they're building it up, and it's this big serious thing. And there's just a bunch of people in there, and they're wearing Nikes, and they're posing for photos, and they're doing like viral meme poses, and they're doing gotcha social media videos. There's a bunch of 25-year-old girls. And it's just like, is anybody here serious? And then it's like, there's Scott Bessent. He's like, that's a serious person. I guess that's what it's like. It's like the presentation. I look at Pam Bondi, and I'm like, you are not serious. I look at this new Department of War press corps, and I'm like, you are not serious. These are not serious people. I'm sorry. You're not serious people. It's like a show. You're just showmen. And then it's Scott Bessent. It's like, that's a serious person right there. So we'll get into some of these other stories developing in the House, mostly going untouched. And I guess maybe this is also proof that nobody's watching Fox News anymore. Maybe, folks, I'm telling you, here's a bold prediction. And I've been following this trend. If you've been listening to me for some months now, I've been following this trend. Fox News is going to really see a big plummet in the ratings soon, I think. Now, I don't know if MS Now is going to do anything. MS Now is, I don't know what they're angling at, but they're still MSNBC to everybody else. And then CNN, maybe CNN might be able to get competitive with Fox if this trend continues. Won't that be incredible to witness? Do not be surprised, folks. Do not doubt me on this. At this rate, Fox will continue to hemorrhage ratings, and don't be surprised if some of those ratings go over to CNN. Now, most people are probably just turning off cable news, or they might be going to some of the other cable news networks like a Newsmax, or there's a couple other alternative right-wing sources out there that I know people are tuning into. Fox is just becoming so watered down. In fact, I am now of the mindset that most of the agenda at Fox News now is to basically just be part of the isolation tank of Donald J. Trump. I think they know that one of Trump's only sources to the outside world is Fox News. And so now they cater their programming knowing that this is the only thing Trump sees outside of the administration, outside of the White House, outside of DC. So we can kind of control that a little bit here. I think that's what's going on. So when I have Jim Jordan and James Comer coming out with what otherwise would be huge announcements that people would be talking about, but they announce it on Fox News and it barely makes a peep, it tells me nobody's watching Fox News anymore. And the only reason people even find it out or even hear about it is because of X. That's where all the views are now on these stories, because nobody's watching it on Fox. Now we'll go to Jim Jordan here. And Jim Jordan is one of the guys I like. He's one of the guys I think is one of the good guys. But now he's become one of these guys that's been talking a big game for a long time. It's like in Pulp Fiction when John Travolta's character shows up at the house. He's just like, I'm here. What's going on? I'm here. It's like, Jim Jordan, you've been talking about a lot. You've been doing a lot of investigations. You've exposed a lot of corruption and fraud. Where are the arrests? Where are the results? It's kind of where we're at here. So here is Jim Jordan talking about the investigation that the House has just issued a subpoena here. They're about to haul Jack Smith's ass in for questioning.
No, he will definitely be under oath, obligated to tell the truth. He can assert privileges, but yes, he will be under oath, and we'll be asking him questions, all kinds of questions. Now, we've already deposed some of his deputies, Mr. Wyndham, Mr. Bratt, Mr. Cooney, some of the key people who were involved with Arctic Frost investigation, and then that was merged with the special counsel investigation that he led. So we've already talked to them. We're continuing to get information, but 2 weeks from today, we will be deposing Mr. Smith, and yes, he will be under oath, obligated to answer questions truthfully. No, he will definitely be under oath, obligated to tell the truth. He can assert privileges, but yes, he will be under oath, and we'll be asking.
All right. Jack Smith is, I don't know if you would say I guess you could say he's part of the deep state. We're having technical issue there. Well, let's go. We're going to President Trump next, so we might as well just go to it now. Jack Smith, agent of the deep state, needs to be investigated. Now, listen to what Trump says about him here. Go ahead and listen. This was yesterday.
He's a bad guy. He's a sick man. There's something wrong with him, actually. I think Jack Smith is a sick man. There's something really wrong with him. I'd rather see him testify publicly because there's no way he can answer the questions. But Biden knew this was going along. Kamala knew it was going along. And there's a lot of things happening right now that they don't like. One of the things is the auto pen. Everything he signed, almost, with the exception.
All right. Well, the auto pen is a separate thing. Let's just replay the first bit of this. This is what's curious to me, and I've heard obviously Trump say this before.
The bad guy. He's a sick man. There's something wrong with him, actually. I think.
What do you think he means by that? And believe me, I'm in this 50-50 realm where it's like I don't know what to take seriously from Trump anymore. Anyway, I don't know when to take Trump seriously and when to just say, oh, he's just spouting hot air. I don't know. But this one he's been saying a lot of, and it seems like there's something there. To me, this seems like one of those times where it's like, okay, no, Trump is saying something meaningful here. He's hinting at something here. I tend to think that Trump is trying to tell us something here.
He's a bad guy. He's a sick man. There's something wrong with him, actually. I think Jack Smith is a sick man. There's something really wrong with him.
I want to know what he means by that. Are you just blowing hot air? Are you just blowing smoke, President Trump? Or when you say that now, like for the dozenth time, I want to know, what is it? What is sick about him? I'm willing to go with you here. I'm willing to say you're being serious about this and you know something about this guy. And I agree. He needs to be public testifying here. This needs to be a public testimony in front of Congress. In fact, it's suspicious that it won't be. But okay, these are the procedures. But this is where we need to be hammering down. This is where we need to be hammering down. And I said, if there's a political strategy to start delivering on these things before the midterms, then I'll pick up the pom-poms. How about that? I'll pick up the pom-poms. I'll dust off that old hat. But I can't bet on that. I've not seen that. We've had plenty of time and experience to know if that's something we should expect, and it's quite the opposite. I have no reason to expect it. But that's what we need to be hammering in on right now. So we'll see. But people are losing patience. And the communication issues continue to mount. Trump's own voters begin blaming him for affordability crisis. Americans continue to say affordability is out of control, and they place the responsibility on Trump, the Politico poll found. So you can come out and say, well, this is Politico. Fox News poll this morning, 75% say there's an affordability crisis. And my wording of that, my phrasing of that might be a little off from what the Fox poll exactly was asking, but that's the gist of it. 75% disapproval of the current status of the economy. That's a Fox News poll. So it's not just Politico polls. It's not just left-wing polls. It's all polls. And that's why I've continued to talk about this communication issue. Stop saying the economy is the greatest of all time. Stop saying it's the golden age. Stop talking about this when it's not true. Americans aren't feeling it. And if somebody is giving you this bad intel, President Trump, it's causing you to say these things that are doing damage to your approval rating, whether it matters to you or not, I guess maybe I don't know that, but there's a big communication issue on this. There's a major disconnect from the administration or Trump himself and how the people are feeling. And it's everywhere. Polls show Trump's blame Biden strategy waning as his own voters turn on him. You can't just make the fake news claim anymore, folks. It's very real. You can't make the fake news claim. You can't make the Russian bots claim. You can't make the Democrat plants claim. All these things that you've claimed in the past, they don't work anymore. The numbers are against you. It doesn't work. The blame Biden strategy doesn't work. So somebody should be telling him to knock it off. You think anybody would have the brass balls to do that? You think there's anybody around Trump that would have the cojones to tell him to knock it off? Maybe Melania, but I don't know how often she's around. Now, you've probably heard the name Todd Blanche a lot. He's been at the center of, let's say, maybe some controversy, some conspiracy. Todd Blanche warns lawyers who criticize Justice Department. The Justice Department's number 2 official suggested Thursday that lawyers might have a harder time winning lenient treatment for corporate clients if they've publicly accused the Trump administration of being lax on white-collar crime. Well, the pardons would prove that he's being lax on white-collar crime. And some of the pardons that he's given out, those individuals have engaged in white-collar crime again and been arrested and sentenced. So what? We're not allowed to report the truth? We're not allowed to report the news? Or we won't get favorable treatment if we do, or we will get favorable treatment if we don't? Not a good look. Now, Blanche has been at the center of some other controversies. And it's one of these weird things. You'll have one group of people tell you how great he is, and then you'll have the other group of people tell you how awful he is. So I don't know. But that's a strange thing to say. And yet, maybe honest. Maybe honest. Maybe he's just being honest. He's like, yeah, you know what? You want to get a good result from this administration, then you better be nice to us. And if you're not, then maybe you won't get a good result. No. I don't like that, but you could say, well, at least he's being honest. It's funny, we don't see the walls closing in stories anymore. And yet, if the walls were ever closing in, the walls are closing in. Bill Pulte faces federal watchdog's probe after his fraud accusations. Now, I've heard nothing but good things about Bill Pulte. So this is probably just an attack on a good man. A government watchdog is investigating whether Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Bill Pulte abused his position to level allegations of mortgage fraud at President Trump's perceived political opponent. Or maybe he just knows what he's talking about. Or maybe their mortgage fraud is so blatant that it doesn't matter. Anybody could figure it out. So this is not like a Todd Blanche where I'll have half the people telling me he's the worst and half the people telling me he's the best. I've heard nothing but good things about Bill Pulte. I think this is probably an attack on a good man. But nonetheless, they're not going to stop coming. And now Trump has disenfranchised a lot of his most ardent fighting supporters. And I think that, as I've been saying, I think he's been set up in a big, bad way with this Venezuela situation, folks. Really badly. Really badly. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I know who's getting killed in these strikes. And anybody that tries to tell me that they know, well, you don't. The family of the Colombian fisherman who was killed in the September 15th U.S. military strike in the Caribbean Sea filed a formal complaint Tuesday with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, alleging the U.S. government illegally killed him. So now there's actual legal action taking place. Now, let's see. Do they have any evidence? Nobody's presented any evidence to you. Who's going to be the first to present convincing evidence of who is getting killed in these boats? Now, you can point out, well, look at these are the types of boats, and this is what's on the boats, and these are the engines. And okay, that can you got some circumstantial evidence. It's not conclusive. Wouldn't hold up. If I presented that evidence in court, it wouldn't hold up. Now, there's other issues, even if these are drug dealers, that they're going to face in court. That is inevitable. But what happens if one of these boats, or multiple, but what happens if just one of these boats was a fisherman's boat? What happens if that's true and they can present convincing evidence? And the only evidence that's been presented in any of these strikes ends up being evidence that this was a fisher's boat. Well, guess what? Now the pressure's on the administration to present evidence that any of these boats weren't just fisher boats. And they haven't been compelled to show you any evidence from the strikes thus far. This is a walls closing in moment, folks. They've been saying it for 8 years. This is the first time. This is the first time where I would say walls could be closing in. Now, somebody's going to take the fall. And it looks like they're already setting up the dominoes here for everybody to take the fall except Hegseth or Trump himself. But this is why it's a walls closing in moment. Forget about what you think of these strikes. The new numbers of the odds of the Democrats taking the House just came out. 80% chance. And it's only trending up, by the way. And these strikes aren't helping. All the foreign policy is not helping. All the foreign policy is tanking Republicans' chances of maintaining the House. Tanking it. And they don't care. They're sold out to foreign policy. They're sold out to foreign interests. They're sold out to special interests. So go with the disastrous foreign policy that's going to cost you the midterms. But this is why the walls are closing in. Oh, the Democrats are acting friendly now. The Democrats are pretending like their fangs have retreated into their skulls. The minute the Democrats take the House, those fangs are coming right back out. And if they think they have an opening here and a lever, to compress the walls on this administration with these boat strikes, they will do it. And they will impeach. And they won't stop at impeachment, folks. They'll make a whole case out of this. They'll make an international case out of this. And especially if they can find real evidence that they were just killing fishermen. So you've seen the fake news. The walls are closing in. It's never been true. It's never been true. Here we are. It's proof it's never been true. This, in my view, is the first walls closing in moment right here. And I've been warning that this was a setup. I've been warning that they're making a mistake here. So we'll see. Who's going to produce the most convincing evidence? And isn't that kind of the story across the board right now too? Yeah, who's going to produce the most convincing evidence in the Turning Point versus Candace Owens debate, if it ever happens? Who's going to produce the most evidence in the January 6th pipe bombing case? Who's going to produce the most evidence in the Luigi Mangione case? Have you heard about that? Get off the rails for a second. The defense is trying to remove the most important evidence from the case because they're going to argue that it was gotten illegally. It's basically the evidence. It's the gun and the notes on his person. I guess it was at the McDonald's he was at, and they illegally searched his bag and they found the evidence. And the defense is trying to have it dismissed because they're saying it was an illegal search and seizure. And there's a lot of other details, so don't hold me to all the different legal standards on that. Who's going to have the evidence? Who's going to produce the most convincing evidence that these boats were drug boats, fisher boats, or maybe they were drug boats, but they let one slip, or they hit the wrong one, or somebody intentionally gave him bad intel to set him up? I'm telling you, folks, this will be the bad one. This will be the bad one if the Democrats take the House. This will be the first walls closing in moment. It's not going to be a good look. And there'll be enough discontent on the right that this thing will penetrate through and be a big case and be a big issue. It will. Now, you've got members of Congress that have supposedly seen this video. They're talking about it. Cartel crushed, Pete Hegseth war crime video detonates inside secret intel briefing. One of the most troubling things I've seen. And so they describe it as they blow up the boat, and then you see the wreckage, and you can see the survivors swimming around in the wreckage and trying to cling to some of the floating wreckage so that they don't drown, and then they hit them again. So that's the video evidence they say that they had seen, and nobody's denying that, by the way. Pentagon knew boat attack left survivors, but still launched a follow-on strike. Sources say, well, they've seen it now. That was from last night. So the update was they've seen the video now. That's exactly what happened. There were survivors, and they did kill them. So this is the admiral that it looks like they're setting up to take the fall here. Admiral says there was no kill them all order in boat attack, but video alarms lawmakers. A Navy admiral told lawmakers Thursday that there was no kill them all order from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, but grave questions and concerns remain as Congress scrutinizes an attack that killed 2 survivors of an initial strike on an alleged drug boat in international waters near Venezuela. Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley was very clear that he was given no such order to give no quarter or to kill them all. Senator Tom Cotton, who heads the Senate Intelligence Committee, as he exited a classified briefing. The order was basically destroy the drugs, kill the 11 people on the boat, said Washington Representative Adam Smith, top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, who is demanding further investigation, said the survivors were basically 2 shirtless people clinging to the bow of a capsized, inoperable boat drifting in the water, and that's when the strike again killed them. Congressional investigation gets underway. And folks, unlike the Republicans who seem to do the investigation and then stop once the investigation is over, they don't move any further than that. Just, investigation done, and then nothing happens. The Democrats will move forward with whatever they find here. They'll move forward with impeachment or charges, or they'll make a case to the International Criminal Court. I mean, they will go all the way with this. Lawmakers want a full accounting after the Washington Post reported that Bradley on September 2nd ordered an attack on the survivors to comply with the directive from Hegseth to kill everybody. Cotton said from watching the video, he saw 2 survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs bound for the United States back over so they could stay in the fight. That is ridiculous, folks. Stay in the fight. The boat is destroyed. They're floating in the middle of the ocean. That is a joke. You have to wonder what's going on, folks. Why wouldn't they just go seize these boats and seize these drugs and then show you it? Come on. Why? It's a totally legitimate question. It's a totally legitimate concern. If they know these are drug boats or they think they're drug boats, they can easily send in Navy personnel, National Guard personnel, whoever, to go seize the boats, seize the drugs, arrest the drug dealers, make the case to the American people, make the case to the world that this is what's going on. And you could have made quite a strong case. What, they've blown up like 10 boats now? You could have made quite a strong case by arresting even 5 of them, let alone 10. It's like dozens of people have been killed now. You could have arrested them. You could have had them testifying. You could have brought them in, giving you intel. Why just blow them up? And then there's 2 survivors floating around in the wreckage. You blow them up too? Come on, guys. I don't care if you're the biggest Trump supporter out there. These are legitimate questions and concerns. And you can tell the administration knows it's bad. They know this is bad. So why did they do it? Who was giving them this intel? Whose idea was this? And it's a situation that's sputtering because there's no way around it now. Now, after this, there's no way around it. Now they're going to have to face up to it. Now they're going to have to explain it. And you know what? The Democrats can be corrupt as the day is long, and it's not going to change anything. Now, we're going to hear from Tom Cotton. We're going to hear from Rand Paul. And we're going to hear from Marco Rubio and Judge Napolitano, who, quite frankly, is one of the last people worth listening to out there. There's not many left. There's not many people, in my eyes, there's not many people left worth listening to. Which is, for somebody that's a news addict like me and a talk radio addict like me, it kind of sucks. Because it's very hard to find anybody worth listening to anymore. If you want to get real news and down the middle news and fair coverage, it's almost impossible now. It's like on the right, you're either just totally a sucker now for MAGA or just a total sucker obsessed with Trump. You're in a cult. You're waving the pom-poms. Or you have to go back to the fake news radical left, which is just like, ugh, like who wants to do that? So, Judge Napolitano is one of the few on the right, let's say, that still does the job right, still does a great show with his guests and does fair coverage. So we're going to be hearing from all of them. Same situation on the Venezuela strikes coming up here as we close out the first hour.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
Navigating between the sane and insane, it's the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
You know what's going to be interesting is how all this Venezuela stuff ties into stolen elections, because a lot of people believe that the whole Venezuela issue concern ties into stolen elections and stolen election technology and data. It'll be interesting to see if that connection ever comes to fruition or if that becomes a bigger narrative with all of this. But getting back to the strikes. So Tom Cotton, it's going to be a little long-winded here, folks, as we enter the second hour. We're going to go to Tom Cotton. He had a brief press conference after watching this video of the strikes, and here's what he told the media.
Admiral Bradley and General Kane for coming to brief about the strikes on September 2nd, which were righteous strikes. These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans. The first strike, the second strike, and the...
So right out of the gate, you lose me, Senator. Right out of the gate, you just come off as untrusting and propaganda-laden. Now, just going into the philosophy of it, okay, all of that can be true, and yet there are still rules and regulations and laws as far as how you engage with this. And it looks like with every twist that, yes, this administration broke the law, folks. But this is just pure propaganda. So right out of the gates, Tom, you come off as just pure propaganda. And by the way, whatever the number is, he claims it's millions. And I don't want fentanyl coming in. See, that's the problem. It's like, oh, you want the drugs in here? When did I? Nobody's saying that. Stop lying. You're losing the debate. So you build these straw men. Nobody wants these drugs coming in here. That's not what this is about. But guess what? I got news for you. The war on drugs has failed. In fact, many of the drugs, one specifically that used to be illegal, one of the biggest targets of the war on drugs, marijuana, now it's legal. I think it's legal in most states. Go buy it right now down the street. Well, not here in Texas, but if you're listening somewhere else, probably. The war on drugs has failed. And if you stop whatever these drugs are coming in, which, again, no evidence has been presented, none. No evidence that would convince me what they are. It's very vague evidence that you might say, okay, it could be. That's it. Wouldn't hold up in court. Guess what? The people that want to take those drugs, they're going to find a way to take the drugs anyway. And if they can't find the street drugs, you know what they're going to do? They're going to take the big pharmaceutical drugs, and then they're going to find a way to turn that into speed and meth and everything else they can. You're not stopping any drugs. Now, why you're so obsessed with stopping these drugs, okay, make your case. You're not stopping drug use. Drug use is not going down in this country. It's going up. The war on drugs has been a massive policy failure. It's been a massive execution failure. It's been a disaster. And he just comes out immediately with the propaganda. These are narco-terrorists. These are bad guys. This is a righteous killing. That is pure propaganda. We're talking about two guys that survived what might have been an illegal strike and then moving in to kill them illegally afterwards. That's what we're talking about here. These are narco-terrorists. They were going to kill Americans. How? Americans that willingly, voluntarily consumed these drugs? Because that's the sad truth of it. So right out of the gates, Tom Cotton does not make a convincing case. He convinces me, actually, that the case against the administration is quite strong.
Third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we'd expect our military commanders to do.
By the way, this is a senator who says that they were lawful and legal, and I would ask him, did you ever vote for these strikes? And, of course, the answer is no.
Exactly. What exactly did you see in terms of the video of the second strike? Were there survivors?
I saw two survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down for the United States, back over so they could stay in the fight. And potentially, given all the context we heard, of other narco-terrorist boats in the area coming to their aid to recover their cargo and recover those narco-terrorists.
Now, folks, I'm sorry, but you have to be retarded to believe that. You have to be retarded to believe that. Really? This whole thing makes no sense. None. So Tom Cotton wants you to believe that a narco-terrorist with a boat full of drugs coming to the United States with no evidence, no proof, they just want you to believe it. Just believe it. All right? And they're on their merry way. They're on their merry way. They're moving their drugs. And then out of the sky, boom! They get rocked with a missile. And this isn't even the first strike. So they know what it is. They knew where it came from. You don't think these narco-terrorists know that missiles are coming out of the sky and blowing them up? You don't think they've heard about that? You don't think they know about that? And you might say, well, the big drug dealers, they don't care about their mules. Well, they care about their product. So you're telling me these narco-terrorists are willingly floating their boats, floating their products out into the middle of the ocean for the U.S. military to blow it up, millions of dollars of product, and they're just going to float it out there for the American military to blow it up? Come on, man. Maybe you believe that. But if you believe what Tom Cotton just said, you're an idiot. So this drug boat just got hit with a missile. What do you think they're thinking? Oh, gee, must have been a misfire. Where'd that missile come from? What was that? Oh, was that a shark? Was that like a leftover war mine? What just happened? Golly gee, I don't know. Let's it was just an accident. Let's climb back onto the boat and get all the drugs and call our friends. And then they're going to send more boats and more people to get struck by a missile? How dumb do you think we are, Tom Cotton? Do you think I'm an idiot? I'm insulted that you think I'm an idiot. I'm insulted that you think I'm so stupid that I'm going to believe this complete garbage. It's already ridiculous to tell me that the cartels are just going to float all of their product on these boats out in the ocean, knowing it's just going to get blown up. It's already ridiculous to ask me to believe that, but okay, maybe. But now you're going to tell me that they did the second strike to kill those people because they were going to recover the drugs and they were going to send more boats out there and more personnel out there to recover the drugs to bring them back to the United States? Oh, yeah, I'm sure they weren't thinking about how, well, if we do that, we're going to get hit by another missile. I'm sure that didn't cross anybody's mind. But Tom Cotton is telling you they had the intel. Are they tapping phones? How do you have this intel? How did you know that more boats were coming, if that's true? How did you know that? It's all ridiculous. This is all lies and propaganda. And it's so sad. It's so sad as an American on the right, as a political conservative that is forced to vote Republican because the Democrats suck so much. It's so sad that we have to deal with lying scum like this. And Tom Cotton is actually one of the better ones. On the grand scale of things, Tom Cotton is probably above the average. And I have to sit here and listen to this lying filth on the Republican side of the aisle, this lying scum. And I have to go vote for this scum because the Democrats are worse. Oh, yeah, guys. Come on. Come on, America. Come on, Republican voters. He's lying to you. Tell me you don't believe this crap. So now what are we? A minute in, and it's just been nothing. You have done nothing to convince me. I am now convinced, Tom. I'm now convinced that, yes, this is really, really bad. I am now convinced that this thing is really bad because of the things you've just said.
And just like you would blow up a boat off of the Somali coast or the Yemeni coast, and you come back and strike it again if it still had terrorists and it still had explosives or missiles, Admiral Bradley.
What is he even talking about? Now we're bombing boats off Somalia and Yemen? Is he talking about the Houthis? What in the hell? What are we talking about?
Secretary had said exactly what we would expect him to do.
Congressman Hines said it's one of the most disturbing things he's seen in his career. Did that match up with what you, Congressman Hines?
No, I didn't see anything disturbing about it. What's disturbing to me is that millions of Americans have died from drugs being run to America by these cartels. What's gratifying to me is that the president.
We're going to comment on that. We're going to comment on the drugs coming in here because you're not getting the truth about that either, folks.
The president has made the decision, finally, after decades of letting it happen, that we're going to take the battle to them. And we're going to continue.
Now, again, and I'm sorry, but this is just the truth. Nobody, sometimes there's a solution that you don't like, folks. That's just the way of the world. Sometimes the solution is just, it's not a good one, but it's the one. It's just true. It's like if you got a leg, you got gangrene, you got to chop it off. Nobody wants you to chop off your leg, but got to do it. It happens. You got to amputate. We got to amputate. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to amputate, but we got to amputate. That's like this situation, folks. If you want to stop the drug cartels, if you want to stop all of these deadly drugs and the fentanyl-laced drugs, you know what you have to do, right? You have to legalize everything. You have to make everything legal. You have to make it all legal, all regulated, all from a storefront. That's the answer. If you don't want drug cartels bringing in these illegal drugs, then you legalize them and you make them available for sale in the free market of the United States of America. It's just true. Now, I would hope that these businesses would not be very successful, but they are. And let me just step away here for a second, because I was thinking about this when I was looking at this and I was putting all of this together. And I'm like, I understand now. And it happens a lot in political media, but generally speaking, it's like, I understand now. I understand why people self-medicate. I do. The world makes no sense. The world is corrupt. We're all slaves. We're lied to. We're lied to about our history, our country's history, our human history, anthropology. We're lied to about everything. We're lied to about energy. Our politicians lie to us all the time. We just live in a corrupt world of lies and deceit. And you're just forced to accept it. You try to fix it. You're the bad guy. You end up in jail. I understand why people self-medicate. I totally get it. We live in an unhealthy culture. We live in a very sick and corrupted civilization. So I get why people self-medicate. And guess what? That's why drugs are so popular. If we had a healthy culture, if we had a healthy civilization that wasn't so corrupted, that wasn't ruled by filth and scum and villainy, maybe people wouldn't be so inclined to self-medicate. But we do. And so they do. It's like, I get it. I get it. I get why people in the political media are driven to drink all the time. I get why people in America are driven to drugs to try to drown it out, the blackness that is our sick, corrupt government. I get it. But getting back to the point, you can blow up as many boats as you want. It's not going to stop the drug consumption. You can blow them all up. blow every single boat out of the ocean, you're not going to stop the consumption of drugs. And if you want to defeat the narco-terrorists, you legalize the drugs that they sell that fuel their entire industry. It's really that simple. It's true. And if Tom Cotton isn't disturbed by watching two guys swimming, trying to survive, get blown out of the ocean, then maybe that shows that there's something wrong with him. But let's get back to his comments.
You to strike these boats until cartels learn their lesson that their drugs are no longer coming to America.
Did a military JAG say that the second and follow-on strikes were all lawful?
Yes, look, this is not like a firefight in some cave in Afghanistan that had 3 people. This was witnessed by literally hundreds of uniformed and civilian personnel at the Pentagon, at Fort Bragg, at other installations. Dozens of them were lawyers. Everybody was watching. Everybody had seen the intelligence and the legal basis leading up to these strikes. Everyone was present during it, and that continues to be the case. There's been no change in the guidance or the order that the Secretary has given to our troopers. And in subsequent strikes, there's an example where survivors actually were shipwrecked and distressed and not trying to continue on their mission. And they were treated, as they should be, as non-combatants. They were picked up by U.S. forces. Just an example of how, of course...
Tell me again how they're going to continue on their mission. You just blew up their boat. What, are they going to strap the drugs onto their back and swim, 100 miles, 200 miles, 700 miles? How many miles is it going to take for them to swim all those drugs back to the coast? It's a 1,000-mile trek. I'm sure they're Olympic swimmers. These are the best swimmers in the world, these Venezuelan drug dealers, man. They are just swimmers. They're freaks. They're like mermaids. They just swim all day long. They can swim 100. They'll swim 100 pounds of fentanyl to the U.S. coast. It won't even matter. What are you talking about? Hey, our boat just got blown up by a U.S. missile. Will you send more boats to rescue us? Are you crazy? This is such nonsense. It's insulting. It's disgusting.
Our military always obeys the laws of war. Our military also acts within appropriate lawful authority.
See, folks, and I want to try to thread the needle here because I'm not against what the Department of War did to revamp the press corps. It's like, or maybe better yet, what the White House press secretary has done to kind of allow access to alternative media and give them a little favoritism. I'm not against that. I'm for that. I think it's going the right direction, but it's all about bringing in the people that just want access, and it's all about bringing in the people that will be proven loyalists so that they can get away with crap like this. That's what this is about.
To target these narco-terrorists.
But Congressman Himes also said that according to what he saw in that video, the 2 who survived trying to get back on the boat, there was no way they could have conducted further operations or anything like that. Do you disagree with?
Jim may disagree with the entire operation. He may be okay with drug boats running through America, or at least thinking that it's an effective tactic to interdict them. I just disagree with that. These are narco-terrorist foreign...
He didn't answer the question. Do you think he will?
Designated terrorist organizations who are bringing drugs to our shores that have killed millions of Americans and thousands of Arkansans. If you think these strikes are justified and righteous, as I do.
By the way, what about the Americans that get killed by pharmaceutical drugs? Because, by the way, pharmaceutical pills are the #1 killer drug in the country, Senator. What about the Americans that got killed by the COVID vaccine, Senator? See, folks, if logic can't be applied universally, it's not logic, it's propaganda. But, I've actually come up with a new one. I got a new twist on my quotable here. If policy can't be applied universally, it's not policy, it's propaganda. Maybe we need to change up the propaganda, but if policy cannot be applied universally, it's not policy, it's propaganda. Would there be a better word for propaganda at the end of that? See, here's what we have, folks. This is my biggest pet peeve. This is why I got into political media. Americans have a thinking problem. Americans have a thinking problem. They have a retention problem. They have a comprehension problem. It's true. And I don't know if it's a diagnosable mental disorder or if it's just humans are getting lazier because we have all this technology. But that's what I learned. And I said, I don't like that. I don't like my civilization. I don't like my culture. I don't like my country having a thinking problem. We need to be able to think critically. We need to be able to analyze. We need to be able to comprehend and retain information and then apply it so that we can have a true understanding of the world and how it works so that we can improve it. Americans have a thinking problem. And that's why Tom Cotton can get up here and just say a bunch of nonsense. Just a bunch of nonsense. And most people they won't even get it. They can't even think. And then I think politicians realize that. I think that politicians realize that. I think Trump realizes that. It's just like eventually you land on the conclusion that the average American is an uninformed ignoramus. They can't think their way out of a paper bag. They can't reach logical conclusions. They don't know how to conduct deductive reasoning. And so you just sit here and you just spew a bunch of bull crap. And now they don't even know the right questions to ask. We need to retrain our brains in the fields of logic and reason. And this is all done by the education system, by the way. The education tries to train you into just going where the lines lead you and never going off course. There's no logic. There's no reasoning. It's all compliance. It's all top-down authority. Logic and reasoning has been erased from the human mind. They can't do it. That's so much of what I try to do here, to try to bring logic and reasoning back into the frame, back into the picture, back into your consideration, your practice when you're consuming news or just the world around you. It doesn't even have to be news. But it's just like it's totally gone. None of this is logical. Any person that has the ability to do deductive reasoning and to have logical consistency will see what Tom Cotton is saying here and say, this doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Do you think he's going to answer the question?
And I want them to continue. Then, of course, the second strike, when you have two survivors who are trying to flip their boat back over and continue on their mission, remain in the battle. Unlike a subsequent strike in which there was no such indication, and they were what's called distressed or shipwrecked under the laws of the sea and the law of armed conflict, and their military went out and picked them up.
Is it your expectation that these strikes will continue?
It's my expectation and my deep hope that these strikes will continue.
So he doesn't answer the question about the boat. Now, I'll tell you, if the strikes continue or if they don't continue, it's like if they don't continue, then that tells you they did a bad thing. If they don't continue, that means it's not good. And if they do continue, guess what? It's not good either. This is a trap, folks. They've walked right into a trap. I can't even believe it. You know what? And look, DC is so corrupt and politics is so corrupt that they might even be able to get away with it. They might. But the Democrats will do everything they can to make sure they don't. And don't be surprised, folks, if the walls start closing in, Republicans are going to join. And they're going to have no choice to. They're going to have no choice to. Because believe it or not, there are still Republicans inside the party that are loyal to the truth. They're loyal to the country. And they're loyal to the Constitution. They're not loyal to the party. They're not loyal to any individual. They're loyal to the truth and the country and the Constitution. And they'll be the ones that get attacked when this happens. But there will be the few number of Republicans left in Congress that still have any integrity. They'll be forced to join the Democrats on this, and they'll have no other choice. And they'll be attacked, and they'll be called names, and they'll be attempted to be destroyed and everything else. But those will be the people that are loyal to the country and the truth, not the people that are loyal to a person. Now, here's Rand Paul talking about it, so this might be a hint at where it's going. But this is Rand Paul responding to the latest on the strikes.
If they're armed, show us that they're armed. If they're not armed, explain to us why we kill people who are not armed. So we usually think of war, we think of those people taking up arms and they may kill our soldiers, so we kill them first. That's war. But these people, we haven't been told if they have arms. 2 of them they killed in the water, but 2 of them they scooped up. And did they arrest them for drugs and get drugs that were floating around in the sea? Did they look for arms? No, they just released them and said, go back to your home country, which really wasn't Venezuela. It was Colombia and Ecuador. So I think this whole thing is a terrible situation, but we as a country should not be so easygoing as to say, well, an accusation is enough. We sometimes make mistakes, even in our country, even when we're very, very careful. The DNA Innocence Project found that were people in jail in our country with full due process. Well, we made a mistake. They've been in jail for 20 years. Do we really think blowing up boats without any kind of process? We got records from the Coast Guard yesterday that we released of boats stopped off of Venezuela before we had this new policy. So we've had an interdiction policy for 100 years probably, where we interdict people on the open seas and the Coast Guard does it. The Coast Guard statistics say that of boats off Venezuela, 21% of those boats didn't have drugs. And it's amazing to listen to some of the support for this. It's like, 79% is pretty good. It's like, really? You kill 21% innocent people just because, wow, the majority of them must be drug dealers, so we're fine. No, that's not very thoughtful, and it's actually an extraordinary reprehensible position.
He was confirmed by the narrowest of margins, including with the support of your vote. When you look back at that, was that the right vote?
I'm going to reserve judgment until we have an investigation. But I think there needs to be an investigation. I think he needs to testify under oath as to what the orders were that were given. I'm sure they're on paper as well. But we also need to see the video. If there's video of people clinging to the remnants of a boat and being bombed, I think that image is one that will shock American people.
Have you seen?
So I don't think that Paul has seen it because he's not in that committee, but the video may make its way around. So he may see it eventually and provide further comment.
In the IG Signalgate report yet, I know that's going to be released to Congress. It's going to be redacted. Do you expect to see that at all?
So far, I haven't been included in any briefings. The briefings are only for people who are sympathetic to the bombings. Anybody who has questions doesn't get briefed.
But on Signalgate, though, the IG.
No, on the IG, no. I don't know on that. I don't have that information.
So in other words, they're giving information selectively to people that they know are loyal to Trump. That's basically what he just said. Now, let's go to Judge Napolitano, who, by the way, is one of the last people on the right, in my eyes, in the media that's worth listening to every day. It's a small number these days. So Judge Napolitano has a lot of clout, folks. He has a lot of clout, and he's earned a lot of trust as far as his commentary is concerned as a legal expert. Now, he's the senior judicial analyst here, on the National Report. And listen to what he said last night about these strikes.
It gives me no pleasure to say what I'm about to say because I worked with Pete Hegseth for 7 or 8 years at Fox News. This is an act of a war crime. Ordering survivors who the law requires be rescued instead to be murdered. There's absolutely no legal basis for it. Everybody along the line who did it, from the Secretary of Defense to the Admiral to the people who actually pulled the trigger, should be prosecuted for a war crime for killing these 2 people.
And who would?
Gives me no pleasure to say what I'm about.
Pretty heavy. Pretty heavy. And it does seem like the direction here is war with Venezuela. It does seem like the direction here is regime change war in Venezuela. And it seems like that's what Marco Rubio is leaning towards or suggesting in these comments to Sean Hannity.
The Venezuelan regime is a source of instability in the entire region. Over 8 million Venezuelans have flooded into neighboring countries as a result of the regime's activities within their own country.
I'm sorry to cut him off here. I'll play it again. But I just can't believe this, man. They just let a communist criminal out of jail in Brazil and then stole the election from Bolsonaro. And now they're going to keep Bolsonaro in jail for the rest of his life. This is all happening in Brazil. That's what, if we're going to do any intervention in South America, it should be in Brazil. It should be for Jair Bolsonaro, who was a huge supporter of Donald Trump, who suffered immensely for his support for Donald Trump, who got stabbed in the streets of Brazil and is now facing political imprisonment for the rest of his life. Still suffering from complications at the attempts on his life. If Trump should have a connection to anybody in the political world, it should be Jair Bolsonaro, and he's completely abandoned him. He's completely abandoned him. And we're going to talk about regime change war in Venezuela? Grotesque. Very on brand for this administration, unfortunately. But hey, we're going to get war in Venezuela. Marco Rubio is telling you why.
The Venezuelan regime is a source of instability in the entire region. Over 8 million Venezuelans have flooded into neighboring countries as a result of the regime's activities within their own country, including into the United States. They also happen to be the foothold of Iran. That's not spoken about enough. Iran, its IRGC, and even Hezbollah has a presence in South America, and one of their anchor presence, especially.
There it is. There it is. Weapons of mass destruction in Venezuela.
For the Iranians is inside of Venezuela. So the Venezuelan.
Wow. Wow. Now, there was a debate about this on CNN. And folks, this is like, I've been saying this for a couple months now, but it's just true. Folks, the lies coming out of the Republican Party, the lies coming out of this administration, the cover-ups, all of it, it's giving the left the opportunity that they've been so desperate for 10 years. And now you've given them the opportunity. They now have legitimate attacks against Donald Trump. They now have legitimate open doors and open windows to attack Donald Trump. It's all been illegitimate. It's all been bull crap. It's all been deceit and deception and propaganda. Now, with the Epstein cover-up and the continuation of the wars all over the world, and now what's going on in Venezuela, now this administration, now President Trump is open for fair criticism, and maybe we'll see what happens if the Democrats take the House with impeachment. But folks, it's real now. And I guess maybe President Trump or the administration just figures, well, they've been the boy that's cried wolf for 10 years. Nobody will believe him now. It doesn't matter. This isn't a nursery rhyme. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the real world. And you have now given Democrats and commentators like Ana Navarro. I can't believe it. This is how low the administration has sunk, that Ana Navarro can now be on CNN and speak more truth and be more accurate in her commentary than the pro-Trump panelists. That's how bad they are on this issue. But I happen to know a thing or two about what they're discussing here with the drugs coming in. Let's listen.
Invested in getting Maduro out. We've got 1/4 of the arsenal of the U.S. Navy parked off the coast of Venezuela.
Protecting American interests.
What is the American interest? Oil?
Drugs pouring into this country and killing us?
Most drugs do not come through Venezuela. Then why aren't you bombing Mexico?
So we closed the southern border.
Now, folks, what she just said there is true. Listen again.
Most drugs do not.
So again, this whole thing, we're getting the drugs. Shut up about the drugs. Americans are addicted to drugs. This is the most drug-addicted nation in the country. Shut up about we're getting the drugs. More drugs will be consumed today in the United States of America, and none of you will say a damn word about it. And they're not coming from Venezuela. Anna Navarro is right.
Drugs pouring into this country and killing us?
Drugs do not come through Venezuela. Then why aren't you bombing Mexico?
So we closed the southern border, and that did.
If logic can't be applied universally, it's not logic, it's propaganda. I can't believe it, folks. This administration is now giving the left openings in the armor, chinks in the armor to actually get through. Anna Navarro is right. God, that's how bad it's gotten. She's right. And her logic is consistent. If we're bombing to stop drugs, then why aren't we bombing Mexico? She's absolutely 100% right. If logic can't be applied universally, then it's not logic, it's propaganda. If policy can't be applied universally, it's not policy, it's propaganda. Or maybe, how do we reword that? Because I don't think propaganda is the right close. If policy can't be applied universally, it's not policy, it's criminal activity. Maybe that's it. If policy can't be applied universally, it's not policy, it's persecution. Well, I happen to do some time in a federal prison. I happened to meet some fentanyl dealers, some pretty big ones, in fact. One guy who was serving 15 years. Now, take it for what it's worth. You could say, well, why do you believe this guy? Whatever. This is what he told me. He got 15 years. He was one of the bigger drug dealers. He was a younger guy, but he'd been doing it since he was really young. He'd been through all the different mule phases. And he got to the point where he was one of their bigger dealers internally, going to universities. Ended up kind of running the Midwest game out of California, out of the East Coast. And almost all of the drugs come in through Mexico, folks. Almost all of them. And the cartels have full control. And the Chinese, whatever drugs might be coming from China, they all go through the Mexican cartels. The Chinese aren't bringing in the drugs themselves. Those all end up with the Mexican cartels. They bring them up. And all the other countries, including Venezuela, all of them, they know the Mexican drug cartels with their allies, with the U.S. drug cartels and the U.S. gangs. They all know how business is done. Honestly, it's almost like these strikes are for the Mexican cartels. It's almost like if these are drugs coming in from Venezuela or somewhere else, these are the competitors of the Mexican cartels, and our military is being used for a military wing of the Mexican drug cartels now. They run the show. The Mexican drug cartels and the U.S. gangs, they run the show, folks. And if they found out some drug boat was coming in from Venezuela, they'd torch it. And if they found out some drug dealers survived it, they'd go out and they'd kill those drug dealers. That's literally what the Mexican drug cartels, our military is doing exactly what the Mexican drug cartels would be doing right now. So, if we're trying to stop the drugs, why aren't we bombing Mexico? That's where they're all coming from. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Folks, that is how ridiculous this propaganda is. That now even Anna Navarro gets the opportunity to be right. That's how bad this has gotten. And she is. She is. Everybody knows, folks. Everybody knows the Mexican cartels and the U.S. gangs run the international drug trafficking. They run it. And if anybody tries to get in their way, they're going to kill you. Why aren't we bombing Mexico? What is going on here, folks? If it doesn't add up, you know it's corrupt, and this doesn't add up. If policy can't be applied universally, it's not policy, it's what? I don't know, persecution, criminal activity? If logic can't be applied universally, it's not logic, it's propaganda. I'm telling you, folks, whatever the deal is with this Venezuela situation, we're not getting the truth. And I don't know the measurements that have been made by this administration. It seems like the measurement is the American people are so dumb, the Trump supporters are so cultish, and the Democrats have been crying wolf for 10 years that, you know what, we can just get away with it. Whatever it is, I don't know. Whatever it is that they're trying to do, they can get away with it. They're not stopping any drugs. Stop. Are you serious? The consumers out there that want their drugs, they're still going to get them. The fentanyl that the cartels are bringing in from Mexico is still getting in. The pharmaceutical drugs that are the number one killer, more than any street drug out there, the pharmaceutical pills, the number one killer of Americans. Nobody's stopping those pill pushers. So I don't know what this is really about in Venezuela, folks, but it ain't about drugs. Okay? So it's about probably oil and regime change. It's probably about resources and regime change. It ain't about drugs. Don't be fooled by this propaganda. Don't be a useful idiot. Don't be a stooge of this corruption. I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not going to let my audience be a part of it. Meanwhile, some leftovers from yesterday's press conference. Max Blumenthal reporting Charlie Kirk personally lobbied Trump against striking Iran. That's true. It's documented. 6 months later, Charlie Kirk is gone and TPUSA is in the Pentagon lobbying Trump to strike Iran again. So this is TPUSA's Frontlines Monica Page. So again, Charlie was against the Iran strikes. Charlie was one of us that was sick of the military-industrial complex, sick of the forever wars, sick of the regime change wars, wanted to put America first. Well, he's unfortunately not with us anymore, and so now they can rebrand his organization and what he stood for, and that's what's going on right now, by the way. So, yeah, they want it to continue. So here was the question from Turning Point USA.
There are reports that Iran's been planning on rebuilding its nuclear facilities. Iranian's president has said that it plans to rebuild its nuclear facilities with, quote, greater strength. Can you provide us on any sort of update on where that currently stands?
I can tell you that Operation Midnight Hammer was an absolute resounding success. Iran's nuclear capabilities were totally obliterated, and experts estimated that, it would take 2 years for them to recover. So thanks to President Trump's bold and swift action, we were able to dismantle that threat to the American people. And I think it was also a historic operation by virtue of the fact that there was a clear end state. We have seen this department get marred down in the Middle East in endless wars, in nation building. That has stopped under this president and this secretary. We now have a clear end state, a clear mission set, and Operation Midnight Hammer was a success in dismantling that.
How's that pure propaganda for you, MAGA? How is that pure uncut? I mean, that's pure Venezuelan fentanyl right there. That's the purest Venezuelan fentanyl. That is pure uncut propaganda. I give Kingsley Wilson props. That is, you are good. You are good. That is that is state propaganda. That is Orwellian level propaganda. You want to see it again? Because in case you missed it, she doesn't answer the question.
Thank you. And my second question regarding Iran, there are reports that Iran's been planning on rebuilding its nuclear facilities. Iranian's president has said that it plans to rebuild its nuclear facilities with, quote, greater strength. Can you provide us on any sort of update on where that currently stands?
I can tell you that Operation Midnight Hammer was an absolute resounding success. Iran's nuclear...
All right. Now, I gave her a hard time for that pure propaganda response. Now I'll actually defend the administration with that pure scripted response now. Israel has come out and Netanyahu has come out and they've basically contradicted the president, and they said that they didn't shut down, that Operation Midnight Hammer actually didn't work and they didn't shut it down. And so Israel is lobbying for more strikes. Israel is lobbying for more Iran strikes. They're actually counting on it. They're actually counting on more Iran strikes from this administration. They are. Now, I don't know if Monica Page is aware of any of this, or this is a question that she thought of herself. I don't know. But that's the insinuation. The insinuation is that, oh, the goal was to destroy Iran's nuclear program, but it's not destroyed. And so I actually give the administration credit, and I'll actually give Kingsley Wilson credit now. Even though that's a pure propaganda response, I'm actually okay with it. I'm actually okay with that because you're trying to dial down this. You're trying to dial down this regime change war. You're trying to tone down this constant rhetoric of more war. So I actually support that. That's one thing where Trump, I think, is kind of deceiving people. But you know what? Maybe sometimes it's good. If the end goal of the so-called deception is a good thing of stopping war, then I'm actually okay with that. Now, I said it at the time. I still believe that this is the case. It was more of a symbolic strike than anything else. Maybe they blew it up. Maybe they didn't. Yeah, I don't know. In my opinion, Trump actually worked out a deal with the Iranians, and he said, look, we're coming in, we're bombing you. Okay? I've got Netanyahu up my ass. All right? I've got the Israeli lobby in here with their hundreds of millions of dollars every damn day begging me to bomb you. All right? I got to bomb you. So here's the deal. I'm telling you I'm coming to bomb you. Do with that information what you will. But you're going to let my pilots come in and drop these bombs, and you're going to let it happen. Okay? And we're going to declare that the goal was accomplished and that you're shutting down and it's over. Okay? You understand? This is the best way for everybody to get out of this. Because you know Netanyahu and the Israeli lobby is in here begging me to blow you to hell, right? You know Netanyahu and the Israeli lobby is in here telling me to kill you all, right? So we're coming in and we're bombing. And you're going to let it happen. And we're going to declare a victory. And that's going to be that. All right? And Iran seemed to kind of go along with it. The pilots went in. They dropped the bombs. Now, you might say, our pilots are so good that they can get away with it and go under radar and everything. That might be true. I wouldn't doubt that. But would you risk it? Would we risk U.S. lives for Israel's agenda? In the past, the answer is obviously yes. With every other administration, the answer is yes. I'm not so sure Trump is that gung-ho to do that. I think Trump would rather make sure our pilots' lives are protected before they die for Israel. I don't think Trump wants another international incident. I don't think Trump wants another war in the Middle East. But he's in a very complex and difficult situation, okay? So we respect that. So, no, I think he cut a deal. And I think he said, we're going to declare victory. We're going to declare we destroyed it. You're going to say it's destroyed. You're not going to say anything. And so then a month goes by, and Netanyahu's back out here saying it wasn't destroyed. It's back up and operating. They're going to have a nuclear bomb tomorrow. Because Netanyahu wants more death. He wants regime change. He wants the full arsenal of the U.S. military to go into Iran. And Trump doesn't want it. And Vance doesn't want it. And Gabbard doesn't want it. And Hegseth doesn't want it. And as we said, the former leader of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, didn't want it either. But now it's, the base is back up and operating. We need more strikes. They lied. They didn't shut it down. It's sick. It's sick. This administration attempting to drag us into a war in Venezuela, drag us into another war in the Middle East, all these special interests and foreign lobbyists. Meanwhile, we can't even make a deep state arrest. I have to sit here for how long and hear about how sick Jack Smith is. I have to sit here how many times and watch Anthony Fauci running around. What do we get now? We get Bill Gates at the White House and Zuckerberg at the White House. Nice. Nice. So I'm like, yeah, that's a pure propaganda response from Kingsley Wilson, which it is. I mean, that's like watching a movie. That's like straight out of a movie scene of just straight propaganda from the government. But I actually sit there and say, I'm actually glad. I'm glad you did it. Because it tells me that the message remains. We're not going back into Iran. We don't want to hear about the nuclear base. We destroyed it. We're not going back in. And so whenever you bring it up, we're just going to say we destroyed it. Stop asking about it. I hope that remains. I hope that energy, I hope that attitude remains. Because you know there's massive pressure right now. You just saw it. You know there's massive pressure to get more involved in Iran. So I hope this administration remains strong on that. I really do. All right, let's close out here with some of the other news from yesterday about Trump slashing the regulations on these cars. Trump proposes slashing fuel efficiency standards for passenger cars. And so they're trying to make this out like, oh, Trump is killing the planet and climate change and carbon emissions. No. It's all about a competitive market. And by the way, well, I mean, I'll tell you, I just did this. I'm sure you probably would do this too. Last time you bought a car, did fuel efficiency come into the frame? Last time I bought a car, there were two cars that I was considering, and one car I actually liked. One car I actually preferred. One car I actually wanted more, but the other car had better fuel efficiency. It got better fuel economy. It wasn't even really that significant. It was like 3 or 4 miles per gallon. And I went with the car that had better fuel efficiency. Maybe that's just because I'm a broke honky, a broke cracker. Well, we'll get into some of that later too. So that's how the free market works. You don't need to regulate it. You don't need to tell these companies that, hey, we're going to force you to do this. No, it's the free market. So if you know your competitor gets 20 miles a gallon or 25 miles a gallon, well, then you're going to have to find a way to compete with that, or you're not going to make the sale. You don't need these regulatory standards. So you might say it comes from a good place, but this is already going to happen in the free market already. This is part of the free market process of improving quality, of improving the product. And the CEO of Ford agrees. And by the way, it takes so much of the regulatory and the tax burden off of these companies. So it also brings down the costs in that degree, that regard as well. So here was the CEO of Ford yesterday. I'm sorry, he was in the White House yesterday. This was him this morning on Fox.
It's a really important improvement for U.S. customers. What you should know is that this is a victory for affordability and common sense. As the president said, we will be able to offer more affordability on our popular models, and we'll be able to launch new vehicles built in America that are more affordable because of this rule change. Frankly, CAFE was totally out of touch with the market reality. We were forced to sell EVs and other vehicles. We're not going back to gas guzzlers. We have a lot of EVs and a lot of hybrids at Ford, but now customers get a chance to choose what they want, not buy what we force on them.
And that was the agenda, to force you to buy an electric vehicle or whatever. That's not the free market. That's actually fascism. For all you anti-fascists out there, you guys were silent on this one. Now, this actually happened before the news out of the White House yesterday. This story hit the headlines last week. You can see this one was actually from Tuesday. So Ford EV sales plunged 60% in November, with the F-150 Lightning still on hold. Well, it sounds like they're going to scrap the whole thing, actually. Nobody wants these electric vehicles. Nobody's buying them. That's even after all of the different incentives and rebates and everything else that you could have gotten for buying them. Still nobody wanted them. And so, you just look at Ford specifically, and Ford's like, we are being forced to make these vehicles. We're being forced to adapt to these new regulatory standards, but we can't sell the product. 60% down on these products. I wonder what's going to happen to some of these things. Now, Teslas are popular, and there's some other popular electric vehicle companies out there. I think Rivian is kind of popular. But really nothing is near Tesla. Nothing in the West, nothing in the United States is anywhere near Tesla, at least. So I wonder what's going to happen to all these EVs that nobody wants. Is the price just going to come down to, are they going to become the cheapest vehicles available, even if they're new? That could be an interesting thing to watch happen. Now, there's one vehicle that apparently Toyota came out with earlier this year. And you may have seen this. And I think there's a big marketing campaign behind this because you may have seen it all over your feed lately. And it's kind of like these throwback vehicles are in again. It's like everybody wants to kind of get like a throwback classical vehicle right now, whether it's the Bronco or some of these new concept Mustangs that we're seeing. Everybody's kind of trying to go throwback right now. It's kind of the popular thing in the car industry. So Toyota came out with this vehicle. That's obnoxious noise. Let me turn that down. So here's this Toyota vehicle. I'll forget. So it's this pickup truck, and it's like a really cheap, effective pickup truck. And anybody, Toyota famous for their products being very efficient and lasting a long time. So it's this Toyota truck, but it was not available in America because it didn't have the right fuel economy. It had what would have been considered an illegal fuel economy. This was back in February from this account here at Denver Bitcoin. You are not, let me see exactly, February 7th. It's February 7th of this year. Look at that, over 11 million views there. So this car, people like it. They like it. It looks cool. It kind of gives you a really rugged feeling, but it also has a, for a cheap pickup truck, it can do what needs to be done for a work truck while also giving you an efficient, cheap, cool-looking vehicle. You are not really free until you can purchase this $10,000 Toyota truck in the U.S. Everything short of this is tyranny. So we're free. We're back. We're back again, baby. What is the name of this truck? Does anybody say it on here? Here's some of the other versions of this car that people are talking about. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was. But there you go. So I guess we're back. We're free again. Will you start to see these Toyota trucks on the road? It says Champ there on the side, but that's not the name that I saw. Do you guys know in the comments? Do I dare open up the comments? The Helix? The Helix? The Helix is what they're saying? Well, yeah, you can't get a Dodge TRX for, I doubt you can get a Dodge TRX for under 20 grand. So the Toyota Helix might be the answer. Are we going to start seeing these cars on the road? I wouldn't be surprised. Would you buy one? We'll see if it does make it here, what the entry price is. I'm sure if they do decide to bring it to the U.S. market, they'll probably have multiple versions. They'll probably have the base version, and then they'll probably want some souped up version too, is my guess, if they bring it here. We'll see if that ends up happening. But I guess we're free, folks. We are free again. We can buy the Toyota Hilux. Hopefully, they introduce it to the U.S. market. Maybe you'll see it on the road. It'll counter the Tesla Cybertruck, the spaceship truck from the future, and then that'll be side by side with the Toyota Hilux, which looks like a throwback, rugged truck out of the past. I wonder if those trucks will be in the U.S. within the year, and you'll be seeing them on the road. Because my guess is, if they do bring them here, they're going to be a very popular car.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
No one can stop this. 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 No te stop this.
It's the fastest 3 hours on the internet. It's the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
All right, new details are emerging now. They're starting to release some of the details sooner than I expected, actually, on the January 6th pipe bombing suspect. Certainly doesn't fit the narrative here. This is all developing right now. We'll get back into the planned stack of news here in a second. But since we do have this breaking, let's see here. Accused D.C. pipe bomber. The New York Post. Brian Cole Jr.'s face unmasked for the first time after arrest in resurfaced photo. And they're claiming that they were able to identify this man off of purchases made at a Walmart and then a cell phone data ping in the proximity of the bombs. So that's basically what we know now is the latest. But very little other than that. I wouldn't be surprised if Fox News gets an exclusive later tonight, knowing how all this operates. Don't be surprised if Fox gets an exclusive later tonight. Wonder who they'll give it to. There'll be something. They'll give them something tonight. That's how it's been working. All right. Oh, and you know what? There's also developing news on this today. I already had this in the stack, but I did see in the break there were some new developments here too. Minnesota whistleblowers accuse Governor Walz of hiding Somali fraud. So now there's going to be, it sounds like Ilhan Omar might be investigated herself in this larger fraud operation. Now, I've heard a couple things. I've heard they're getting ready to actually investigate Ilhan Omar. I've also heard that there is considerations in door-to-door raids over everybody connected to this fraud. Now, the bigger story here. So you heard about the big fraud, the big healthcare scam fraud. It was run by these Somalis, but the people that were running it and taking most of the money, apparently they were just kind of the head honchos, and the money was being doled out all over the community. This is the buzz. These are the rumors that they're apparently going to be able to track and trace this fraud to, I mean, I don't want to say the entire community, but for lack of a better phrase here, it sounds like the entire community was benefiting from this fraud. And we're talking about tens of millions of dollars. So yeah, okay. So are we talking about, are we going to see this? Is Tim Walz involved? Is Ilhan Omar involved? Are we going to find out? Is somebody going to present a case that the individuals running this healthcare scam were stealing money from the U.S. government and giving it to all of the Somali community there in Minnesota? Did Tim Walz know of this? Did Ilhan Omar benefit from this? These are the rumors. Now, this was published yesterday. Nearly 500 employees in Minnesota state government say Tim Walz ignored repeated internal warnings about large-scale fraud involving state aid programs within the Somali community, and that he retaliated against staff who raised the concerns. 500 employees? 500? Okay, 5. It's like, all right, 50 even? 500? Folks, this is, I have a feeling this one could get interesting. You know, and it's the same problem that we always have, isn't it? When are we going to get results? Like, we know all the fraud is happening. We know it's when do people get arrested for it? That's the question. And why didn't they arrest the January 6th pipe bomber until now, after 5 years of investigating? It's stuck in my head for some reason. Moving on. More fraud. Obamacare subsidies granted without documentation to 90% of fake accounts set up by government watchdog. What? Affordable Care Act subsidies have been granted without the required documentation to 90% of fictitious applicants over the last 2 years, according to a damning government watchdog report released yesterday. The Government Accountability's Office preliminary findings of ongoing and covert testing of Obamacare found fraud risks in the federal ACA marketplace, specifically related to the healthcare program's advanced premium tax credit, a subsidy Democrats shut down the government over last month in a failed effort to extend the tax credit for 3 more years. Was it because they were all benefiting from the fraud? Were they all profiting from the fraud? The federal marketplace approved coverage for nearly all of GAO's fictitious applicants in plan years 2024 and 2025, generally consistent with similar GAO testing in plan years 2014 through 2016, according to the government watchdog. So in other words, this group, the Government Accountability Office, made up fake accounts to see if they could engage in fraud via the Affordable Care Act, via Obamacare, and they found out that, yes, they had a 90% success rate of it being able to engage in fraud under this Affordable Care Act. I think my next clip is about this too, and it'll really bring this point home. But this is why America can never be communist and never be socialist and never should be. And you know what? If there's countries around the world that want to try that and do that, and maybe they can do it successfully, maybe not, whatever, never here. Never here. And the next video will really drive that point home. But here's the deal. Whenever you have something like this, a big government program, and you have fraud, it makes it more expensive for everybody. And if you can have a 90% success rate on fraud, can you imagine? That means you're basically paying 90% more. So you're paying 90% more of what your healthcare bill would be because 90% of this is fraud. Think about that. And they're trying to force you onto that. They're trying to force you on to 90% fraud. But here's maybe a stronger case in point. And I'm not going to be too mean here. I'm not going to be too cold. But it is what it is. You see it for yourself. So this is a woman. So they do a street report here. Part of the new SNAP requirement is that you're going to work 80 hours a month. 80 hours a month, which is like 4 hours a day, give or take. So this woman is asked about, should you be forced to work 80 hours a month to receive SNAP benefits? Now, if you're an audio audience here, which we are growing, by the way, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Spotify, the Owen Report is doing good numbers there. So I appreciate everybody that does listen in. Nice for you to be with us. So let me explain what we're looking at here. This is a Jabba the Hutt looking woman. That's just an accurate depiction. Okay. This is a Jabba the Hutt looking woman. And she's asked if she thinks you should be forced to work 80 hours a month to receive SNAP benefits.
I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair that he do that. But
And you were saying you think it's going to hurt a lot of people?
oh yeah, definitely. Definitely it's gonna hurt a lot of people. Because you never know. You know what? Especially now that we're in the holidays and everybody wants to have a good dinner and everything. And if you don't give it to them, it's gonna be really hard.
It's very sudden and it will affect people.
Now, let me say this. If we didn't spend hundreds of billions of dollars on bad foreign policy, hundreds of billions of dollars on bad foreign aid and bad foreign entanglements, and instead we just repatriated those funds to the SNAP program, then I still wouldn't like it, but I'd be okay with that. I'd say, you know what? I'm not going to complain. And we'll deal with that later. If you repatriated the hundreds of billions of dollars, the trillions of dollars that we've spent on foreign wars and foreign aids, and we said, hey, we're done doing that. Instead, we're going to do domestic aid, and we're going to keep the SNAP program going instead of funding all these foreign wars and foreign interests. I'd say, you know what? I still don't like it, but you know what? As a policy shift, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Fundamentally, I stand against any government. Well, not any. I think it should be very minimal. I think as a conservative political value, government aid should be minimal. But you know what? I think conservatives, we want to have a heart too. And we can take care of people that can't take care of themselves. It's very minimal, but there can be room for that. But that's not what we're talking about here with SNAP. We're talking about people that are just getting stuff for free and taking advantage of a system. But getting back to the healthcare deal, because it's all the same. It's all communism. It's all socialism. So I can say I should not be expected to feed that Jabba the Hutt looking woman. Now, I don't know if she's actually on SNAP or not, but we know they're out there. And they post their videos about it too, about their giant SNAP hauls. So we know these Jabba the Hutt women are out there taking advantage of SNAP and not working, apparently. And not working. It's all just laziness. Man, you got it good. Wow. So now I'm being forced to pay for their food, for their junk food, for their family, because they don't want to work. Not because they're unable to, because they don't want to. And then you get into the healthcare aspect. Well, now you're supposed to be forced to pay for these Jabba the Hutt looking women's healthcare too. And this is where the idea of independence, and this is where the idea of the individual, and this is where the concept of America is born. This is the revolutionary idea that the individual is responsible for itself and that the individual is capable of handling his or her own business. And that should be the driving force now behind the new West and the new world. We don't need a king. We don't need a government. We can make our own decisions. We can make our own fate. We can decide our own terms. I, as a healthy man that takes care of myself and works, should not be forced to pay for somebody who doesn't work and doesn't take care of themselves. I shouldn't be forced to pay for their food, and I shouldn't be forced to pay for their health care. Because you know what it does? It drags down good, hardworking people. That's what it does. It drags them down. So now I, a 36-year-old healthy man who works for myself and who takes care of myself, I am now burdened. I am now anchored. I am now tethered to a fat Jabba the Hutt who needs to pay for all of her kids' food, who needs to pay for whatever health care she needs, and soon she'll need a motor scooter. So now I'm being held back. I'm being held back against my will. I'm being held back by people and entities and things that have nothing to do with me. I should not be tethered to this. And that's what socialism does. And this was the revolutionary idea of America, the revolutionary concept of the West. The individual is responsible for the individual, and the individual is capable of being responsible for the individual. And the individual has no necessity to take care of somebody else, whether it's on the other side of the planet or right down the street. That's the idea of America. That's the Declaration of the Independence right there. But now it's all dependent. And now not only is the American citizen being forced to take care of Jabba the Hutt's food and Jabba the Hutt's health care, we're also now forced to pay for wars and foreign interests all over the world as well. That's not independence. That's not America. All right. Now this is going to be an interesting one right here. From TechCrunch, but this is all over the news today. Company backed by Donald Trump Jr.'s firm nabs $620 million government contract. Vulcan Elements, a rare earth magnet startup backed by Don Trump Jr.'s VC firm 1789 Capital, has secured a $620 million contract from the U.S. Department of Defense, as reported by the Financial Times. The contract is part of a $1.4 billion partnership with the U.S. government and ReElement Technologies to expand and boost the domestic supply of magnets. Is Vulcan Elements public? I'm going to look that up right now, actually. I wonder. Energy stocks are up big today, by the way. Vulcan? Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if this is the same one. No, this is a different one. So this company, yeah, the Vulcan I'm looking at, which is also up. Stock market was up today. I told you get a December rally, but be careful next year. Now, I think Don Trump Jr. is a high integrity guy, as far as he's an honest guy. And I wouldn't be surprised if he addresses this or responds to this. Now, it might not be the response that we may think is necessary or want to hear, but I wouldn't be surprised if he responds to this or addresses this. But if I'm a conspiracy theorist, I think somebody's trying to shut Don Jr. up. If I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm saying, Don Jr. is saying some things that aren't supposed to be said, and he's not politically correct, and he doesn't play these games. He says it like he sees it. So maybe somebody says, hey, Don Jr., I know you guys want to get this massive defense contract here, and maybe we can get it done, but could you just maybe not say certain things? That's the conspiracy theory in me. But that doesn't look good. Don Jr.'s $620 million government contract for his startup. A lot of nepotism going on here. A lot of nepotism. Interesting to see how that one works out. So Erica Kirk is kind of all over the news today. She was at the New York Times Summit, whatever that deal was. She was at the New York Times conference. A lot of clips of hers going viral from that. Now she's going to have a sit down with Barry Weiss, a town hall with Barry Weiss. Go figure. CBS News editor-in-chief Barry Weiss sets her on-air debut, a town hall with Erica Kirk. Now, that's funny to me, her on-air debut. They can actually get away with saying that. Folks, Barry Weiss has been going live on YouTube, and nobody watches. Nobody. The first live stream that Barry Weiss did after she got this deal, less than 1,000 people watched. She got a $150 million deal. She went live on YouTube. Less than 1,000 people watched. So, no, this is not her on-air debut. I guess they might say, well, it's a CBS deal on-air debut. So there's some, but no, she's on air plenty. Nobody's watching. The interview is set for December 13th in New York. And it was my interpretation that this is going to be about MAGA. Was my interpretation. But here's what the Hollywood Reporter is saying. CBS has had a town hall with Erica Kirk, the widow of late conservative activist Charlie Kirk and the leader of Turning Point USA. The town hall itself is not unusual. Kirk has been doing a number of media interviews in recent weeks, including the culminating conversation at the New York Times Deal Book Summit last night. But what's unusual is that Barry Weiss will be the one leading the conversation. She goes on, let's see, slop. It's getting very sloppish. I don't blame Erica Kirk. If she wants to do these interviews, she's welcome to do them. But to me, this is Barry Weiss now basically trying to take over what is MAGA narratives and what is MAGA and where MAGA is going and who represents it and who doesn't. None of these people were around in 2016. Not Barry Weiss. Certainly not Barry Weiss. Now she's going to be one of the leading voices on the right. She's going to be one of the leading voices of MAGA now. Oh, yes. Just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful, isn't it? Don't you just love it? Don't you just love that, guys? All right. Where do we want to go here? Final 30 minutes of the show. I got to try to pile drive. All right. The Epstein files. They're not dead yet. Kevin O'Leary and Anna Kasparian on CNN debating the relevance of the Epstein files.
I would love for them to release the files. I am not at all in Trump's base. However, I care deeply about it because I'm not going to buy this argument that like these young girls were raped by what? That did they rape themselves? No, they got raped by people who are in powerful positions. And I want to know how many of those individuals are currently serving in our government in some role or the other.
American awake for 18 hours a day. How many minutes do you think they spend worrying about this stuff? Maybe they were raped, maybe they weren't. This is not what American families give a damn about.
Just to be clear,
they just
we
don't.
do know.
All right, he goes on. I'm going to cut it short right there for the sake of time. Now, I like Kevin O'Leary, but he's just wrong on this. He's just wrong. The Epstein client list, the Epstein phenomenon is very much dinner table conversation. Now, you might say the average American dinner table isn't talking about it, but the average American dinner table is talking about, like Stranger Things or something. Totally irrelevant, nothing. But to people that talk about politics, no, the Epstein phenomenon, the Epstein list, all that, that's very relevant to people that are in the political world and talk politics. Very relevant. So Kevin O'Leary is just wrong on that. And I don't know if that's, because he's kind of an elitist, he kind of represents that type of mindset or worldview. And these are probably the types of people that Trump is surrounded with that are telling him this stuff that is just wildly inaccurate. And then it's like the one voice in there that was like, no, President Trump, people do care about the Epstein list. Charlie Kirk. Well, I guess Charlie Kirk isn't telling Trump that the Epstein list is relevant anymore, is he? So Kevin O'Leary just gets this wrong. Now, here's what's wild when I hear this. And let me play it one more time. And if you watch closely here, again, for the sake of time, I don't want to spend too much time, but if you watch closely to Kevin O'Leary's body language too, watch this, just watch this real quick.
The files. I am not at all in Trump's base. However, I care deeply about it because I'm not going to buy this argument that like these young girls were raped by what? That did they rape themselves? No, they got raped by people who are in powerful positions. And I want to know how many of those individuals are currently serving in our government in some role or the
American
other.
Awake for 18 hours.
So O'Leary kind of looks down and shakes his head when Kasparian says that. And I don't know if that's because he just doesn't agree with her. But here's my other notion of this. And again, I like Kevin O'Leary. I don't think there's no wrongdoing here. But folks, let's just level it out here. And again, I don't know what O'Leary knows or doesn't know, but folks, people know what was going on at that island. Now, Donald Trump can say he doesn't know and he was never there, and I'll believe him. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But let's not pretend like people didn't know what was going on. Let's not pretend like the billionaire playboys and the people that Epstein was managing their money and the people that were partying with Epstein and all this stuff, including Donald Trump. And Trump said things publicly. That's why, part of me is like, I'm willing to give Trump the benefit of the doubt, because if you look at Trump's public commentary, he always said what Epstein was into. He always said Epstein was into women and preferred them young. So he was always saying that. My point is this. They know what was going on at that island, folks. They know. Now, they might not know all the details, and there might be certain levels of access or certain levels of who knows what. I'm sure to some degree that's true, or who was involved in the blackmail or who knew about it. So there's definitely different degrees of knowledge. But generally speaking, they knew. They knew what it meant if you were getting on a jet and going to Epstein Island. They knew what it meant if you were hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell and getting a foot massage. They knew what it meant if Maxwell had 3 girls on her arm and you were going into a plane or a party with them. They knew. All these rich men knew. And just be honest. Let's be honest. When you're that rich, the rules are different, folks. It's true. The rules are different. And when you've lived in that world long enough and you've got to play by the different rules long enough, it just becomes normal. You don't even think of it as like a different set of rules. That's just normal for you. So for them, they're running around, all these young girls going to the island, whatever, getting away with all the stuff that goes on. It's just normal for them. They're not even thinking about how it might be interpreted or what's going on or ever getting caught. This is just normal for them. They're rich, they're powerful, they're in control. It doesn't matter what they do. Maybe even some of them knew Epstein was a high-level intelligence asset and he could get away with anything anyway, so if they were involved, they were clear. Sure, they're getting blackmailed, but all right, I accept I'm a controlled operation now, so I'm just going all in. They knew. They knew. People know. And so I see that response from O'Leary, and I'm sure he has some knowledge. Again, I'm not saying any wrongdoing, not at all. I'd say O'Leary's, let's say, one of the good guys in that class of people. But he knows something. And I think that when she makes the rape comment and that invokes that response from him, I think, if we ever get anything out of this, if people are forced to testify, or some of these men that had some of these sex slaves or hookers or whatever they were sleeping with them, obviously Epstein isn't going to be testifying, huh? Obviously, some of the big whistleblowers aren't going to be testifying. None of them are with us. They all committed suicide magically. I think that it's going to be kind of like the Diddy thing, where they're just going to say, hey, this was all mutual. And they might say, well, I didn't know they were underage. Or they might say, well, I was just there. They might say, like Diddy's lawyers eventually are now going to argue that, hey, we're just paying for prostitutes. That's all you have here is I hired a hooker. Other than that, I know nothing. But I think these guys know. I think these guys know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's, you could call up Epstein and, pick out your sex slave or your hooker or whatever. I mean, we all saw Hunter Biden's phone. We all saw Hunter Biden's text messages and emails. He's ordering hookers. So it's not like it's unheard of, folks. Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's hard to find a hooker in D.C. Yeah. I'm sure nobody knows where to find a prostitute. No, they live in a different world. They know how to access this stuff. They can afford it. So when I see that, it's almost like maybe Kevin knows something. And it's like, yeah, it wasn't rape. It's like, yeah, these women are getting paid. It's like, yeah. It's like, it's not as violent as you're interpreting. But it's like they can't, you don't say that, obviously. But they know. Let's stop acting like we don't know. They all know. They all know, don't they? Come on. Let's not pretend like they don't know. Let's not pretend like we have no idea what was going on down there. All right, I'm trying to find something here because we're running short of time. I have to be very diligent. With the remaining time here. I'll tell you what, let's go here. Let's take care of some business here. Because I saw this in the New York Times. I just didn't understand it. I don't want to understand it. Says there's never been a better time to quit caffeine. The New York Times, folks, this is pure propaganda. Pure propaganda to quit caffeine. How dare you? How dare you? If the New York Times is telling me I have to quit caffeine, I'm thinking I might need more caffeine, actually. That's what I'm thinking. And that's why I'm thinking I need now, because I have my dark roast from blackoutcoffee.com. You know I've been a dark roast guy. And then I found out that light roasts actually have more caffeine in them. I was blown away when I discovered this. I couldn't believe I'd been missing out on that caffeine. But I wanted to finish my bag of Pitch Black Espresso and Brutal Awakening from blackoutcoffee.com before I busted open the smooth finished light roast. But now the New York Times tells me I need less caffeine. I'm thinking I need more caffeine. If the New York Times tells me one thing, I want to do the other. No, we don't want to do that. Now it's getting into dangerous territory. But I couldn't help but think that this was a direct attack on me. This was a direct attack on our friends at blackoutcoffee.com to try to convince you to drink less Blackout Coffee. I will not stand for that. I will not let the New York Times attack our friends, the official coffee of the Owen Report, blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. I'm not going to let the New York Times do this to you guys. We're not going to let it stand. All right, so now we're going to sell more coffee now. We're going to move more coffee now. We're going to promote coffee even more so now. And we're going to promote the light roast because it has the most caffeine. I'm a dark roast guy. I prefer the dark roast. I prefer the bold flavor of it. But the New York Times says less caffeine. I say more caffeine. I'm going light roast now. I'm going light roast. But actually, I got to be honest, folks. I talk about it all the time. The instant coffee, I'm like, there's just nothing better. There's nothing better. And it's crazy because, as you know, if you tried instant coffee before, it usually sucks. This is actual premium instant coffee. This is actually a cup of instant coffee that tastes like coffee. Not watered down, not flavorless, not you don't even want to finish it. It actually tastes like a nice, freshly brewed, bold cup of coffee. Not best premium instant coffee out there. Cyber Monday sale is still live. Buy two, get one free right now. But sale ends right there. You see it on the screen. Sale ends in 5 hours. So stick it to the New York Times. Tell them we're not giving up caffeine. Screw you. I'm going to blackoutcoffee.com/Owen, and I'm taking advantage of the 5 hours left of their Cyber Week. Buy two, get one free. I'm getting a bunch of coffee. I'm getting the premium coffee. I'm getting the single-serve pods. I'm getting the bags. We're sticking it to the New York Times. We're going to blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. So we thank you, New York Times, for reminding us. We thank you for that. We thank you for the opportunity. All right. Let's get into what remains here. Some geopolitical. Zelensky's plane comes under drone attack. The drones breached a no-fly zone and reached the location where Zelensky's plane was expected to be at that particular moment. It's not looking good, folks. Zelensky's airplane was targeted by military-style drones as it approached Dublin Airport. The incident happened on Monday night as the Ukrainian president arrived for a meeting with Ireland's prime minister. The drones breached a no-fly zone and reached the location where Zelensky's plane was expected to be at that particular moment. However, fortunately for the Ukraine leader, his plane arrived ahead of schedule, meaning it avoided the unidentified drones. The drones then headed to the Irish Sea and circled above a Navy vessel that had been deployed there for the visit of the Ukrainian president. Sources tell the Journal that the drones took off from the northeast Dublin, possibly near Hull, and flew up for 2 hours. The police are investigating. They took off from land or an undetected ship. It's currently unknown where the drones are from or who they are. That's wild. Now, I would assume these got to be Russian drones or some proxy of Russia. I mean, that's what I would assume. And I don't know, maybe it was a test to see what they could breach. Maybe it was an intelligence test to see if their intelligence of where he would be and when was any good. I'd be majorly concerned if I was Zelensky right now. And Trump has been trying to warn him. Trump has been trying to warn Zelensky, folks. This was just yesterday. And maybe he knew about these drones.
When I was in this office and I talked about no cards, I said, you have no cards. That was the time to settle. I thought that would have been a much better time to settle. But they, in their wisdom, decided not to do that. They have a lot of things against them right now. When I was in this office.
Yeah, sounds like Trump knows it's not a good time to be Vladimir Zelensky. And he gave him the out. He gave him the opportunity. Zelensky didn't take it. And now he's got drones flying around him. Nobody knows what's going on. Meanwhile, it was Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner with Putin yesterday. I like the work Witkoff is doing. I just don't understand why Kushner needs to be around. I don't like that. I was told Kushner and Ivanka were not going to be a part. I was told Kushner's role was going to be deduced to not part of the administration. And now he's all over all the geopoliticking. Now he's all over all these deals again. I just don't like it. It's way too much nepotism. And it goes against what we were told leading up to this administration. And why is Kushner always around? What is the deal there? I just don't like that. But he was there with Witkoff meeting Putin just yesterday. I'll tell you what, this is a long one. This is a long one, but maybe we should let's just play a couple minutes. This is Representative Comer talking about the investigation that the House is launching now into the Epstein bank records.
House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer issuing subpoenas to J.P. Morgan and Deutsche Bank for all of Jeffrey Epstein's financial records. The chairman also requesting additional documents from U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General Gordon Rea. Joining me now is the man himself, Kentucky Congressman, Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. Mr. Chairman, good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So what are you looking for? And tell me what you expect, how this plays out.
Well, we really don't know. We're going to follow the money. That's what we've been instructed to do. This is a very serious, credible investigation. We want to know the truth. We want to give the American people answers. If there's a list of people who were participating in sex trafficking, we want to know who they are, and we want to hold them accountable. We want to find justice for the victims, as well as to try to find out why the government failed so many people. So I think with the bank records, we'll be able to find accounts. We'll be able to trace the money and determine if there were people that were paying Jeffrey Epstein for services, or if Jeffrey Epstein was paying and purchasing women in other countries or wherever. I mean, these are some of the worst crimes I've ever seen inflicted on young women. And it just doesn't seem like the federal government over the past 2 decades did anything to help these victims.
I don't think it's lost on anybody that here you have banks potentially involved in, enabling this sex offender. And yet, who did they debank in 2020?
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Right. Yeah.
My goodness.
And by all accounts, the banks were notifying the government. The banks suspected that this type of activity was taking place with Epstein, by all accounts. So, we're gonna try to determine what the banks knew. But the banks did what they're supposed to do. If they filed those suspicious activity reports, then it's up to the federal government to follow through. So there are many steps along the way where I believe these women, these victims or survivors, whatever you want to say, they were let down by the federal government. The federal government didn't do its job in protecting people, in identifying criminal activity and doing something about it.
Do you have a read on how many suspicious transactions took place at these banks?
Yeah, there were hundreds and hundreds of them. But again, Epstein was a big operator. I mean, you look at his estate; it's worth nearly $1 billion. So he had a lot of financial activity. We don't know a lot. All we know is he's a financier. When we get these bank records, we'll do like we did in the Biden investigation. We'll be able to follow the money. We'll be able to identify different LLCs and different corporations to see where his money was coming from and where it was going.
Are we going to see the client list?
I don't think there's an actual Epstein list, but if we're able to follow the money, maybe we can construct a list.
I see. Meanwhile, Attorney General Pam Bondi.
All right, that's the part that I wanted to cover. For the sake of time, we'll not go into the rest of that segment. It's about 5 minutes left. Now, again, it's the same frustration. They did the due diligence, and they produced the Biden crime family bank records, and nothing has been done. And even the pardons now that Biden signed are all null and void, according to President Trump. So why aren't there arrests? Why aren't there arrests from the Biden crime family? Now, I have no doubt if Comer does this and produces the records and we get the same flow chart that we saw from the Biden crime family, I mean, that's going to be revealing. And like he said, it'll create a list of its own. Whether that's the quote, Epstein list that we're all expecting, it will be its own list. So, all right, James Comer, I mean, he's delivered the goods before. There's not been any results, but he's delivered the goods. If he says he's going to deliver the goods on the Epstein records, and I tend to believe him. I tend to believe that we'll see that for whatever it's worth. Now, listen to what Caroline Leavitt said yesterday during the press conference. And boy, oh boy, if this isn't an unintentional or direct shot at Pam Bondi, I mean, my God, folks, listen to this.
The financial backing of these groups, particularly Antifa, is certainly something the administration is looking into aggressively. And the federal government has never really been mobilized or tasked with doing that. So we're kind of kickstarting that into gear. The FBI is working on it alongside the White House's Homeland Security Task Force. We have our intelligence community looking into this as well. And even the Secretary of Treasury is involved with these matters since they are financial in nature. And we will continue to get to the bottom of who is funding these organizations in this organized anarchy against our country and our government. It's a question the American people have been begging the answer for many years, and we're committed to uncovering it. And when we do, I'm sure you'll be one of the first people to know.
Folks, if that's not a direct shot at Pam Bondi, I don't know what is. She goes off a list of people that are going to be involved in this investigation of the Antifa money, and she didn't say Pam Bondi. And she didn't say the Department of Justice. And she says, this is something we've been trying to work on starting for months, but now we're just kickstarting it. Folks, Bondi was supposed to be doing this for months. Bondi claims that she was doing this for months, and she was going to give us the list months ago of who was doing that, and nothing happened. They've got to be getting fed up with Bondi. She is just a train wreck. She belongs on Fox News with the rest of the bimbos. And then the only person that gets shouted out by name is Scott Bessent. I'm telling you, I go right back to, I think it was the first hour when I was covering Scott Bessent. And I'm just like, that's what this is. It's like Trump is surrounded by, and he does it to himself. He does it to himself. And it's got to be tough. It's got to be tough delegating. So it's not like this isn't some major knock on Trump, because it does have to be tough to delegate and make tough decisions. But at a certain point, yeah, Trump takes some of the blame. Trump is the one that surrounds himself with beauty queens. Trump is the one that surrounds himself with Barbie dolls and pageant queens. He's the one that does that. So he's into that. Whatever, I get it. We all like hot chicks. All right, President Trump. But he's the one that's done this. And so now Caroline Leavitt has to come out and say, yeah, well, the financial investigation into the Antifa money, we're not even going to say Pam Bondi's name. We're not even going to mention the DOJ now, even though that was supposed to be going on there for months. We're just not even going to mention that. And now we're going to have to need Scott Bessent to do it, because I'm telling you, folks, I'm starting to reach this point where it's like, is Scott Bessent the only competent person surrounding Donald Trump? And hell, for the sake of the conversation, I mean, let's just say what it is. I look at this administration, and if I'm measuring straight up competence, if I'm only measuring competence, because, Trump will get a hard time. They say he surrounds himself with Jews. And you talk about Lutnick and Witkoff and Besant. Well, I'm sitting here saying those three men seem to be the only competent ones in this administration. Am I wrong? Does Pam Bondi come across as competent? Has Kash Patel come off as competent? Are you moved by Brooke Rollins? Are you moved by Secretary Noam? I'd say Linda McMahon is competent, but she's supposed to be quiet. She's supposed to be basically turning down the Department of Education. So I'd say Linda McMahon has proven she's very competent, but her job is to tone down the volume for the Department of Education. I'm just looking at this. I'm like, where are the serious men? Where are the serious, competent men that are leading this administration? I like Pete Hegseth, but he seems way in over his head at this point. Marco Rubio I was turning on Marco Rubio. He was starting to turn into one of the good guys. And I still think he's improved as far as politics is concerned under Donald Trump. But now he's right back to regime change war bull crap. He looks like a soft squish doughboy again. Like, oh, we need more. It's Hezbollah in Venezuela. Oh, geez. It seems to me at this point that Lutnick and Witkoff and Besant are the only competent people in this administration. And I'm sorry, but that's what it seems like. And Bongino, for the first time today at that press conference, came off as confident and competent and in control. For the first time, Bongino, I was like, okay, that's what I want from Bongino. And you could say Pirro, too. Janine Pirro as well. Her role is more limited, but she's confident. She's competent. Folks, if that's not a direct shot at Pam Bondi, wow. No mention of Kash Patel. No mention of Pam Bondi. But they mentioned Scott Bessent. That, to me, that is, they are incompetent and they can't deliver. So now we have to ask somebody that is competent and can deliver, Scott Bessent, to do it. And he probably will. And of course, the great irony is that Bessent has worked for Soros. So if anybody knows where the Soros money is going, it's Scott Bessent. Boy, that's going to be fun. That is going to be fun, isn't it? Let's put Scott Bessent in charge of finding out where all the Soros money was going. Let's see what happens. I trust Bessent more than the rest of them. I'll tell you that right now. If I had to pick any of them to actually do this, I would pick Bessent. So let's see. We've got nothing from the FBI. We've got nothing from the Department of Justice. So, all right, let's go with the Treasury Department then. Let someone else try it then. I mean, good Lord. That is wild. That is wild. Grand jury declines to indict Letitia James again. How do you like that? That's breaking right now. We mentioned this yesterday. We ran out of time. This is wild. In Ireland, Enoch Burke. Judge jails Enoch Burke for Christmas with effective life sentence. This is a dark and shameful day in Ireland. Enoch Burke is an exemplary teacher and a man of integrity. His only crime is that he refuses to endorse transgenderism and bow to a satanic ideology. This is truly a wild story. And that's exactly what's happening. Judge Brian Cragen announced in court, this was yesterday, that if Enoch Burke's family members spoke, he would eject all family members from the courtroom. The Supreme Court has ruled that such an action would be illegal. While sitting on the bench today, Judge Cregan lied, obfuscated, and quizzed Enoch Burke on reports from an Irish independent newspaper article written by journalist Shane Phelan, while trampling on Enoch Burke's God-given and constitutional right to profess and practice his religious belief. Our courts are now in shambles, and a citizen of this country is suffering as a result. Most of all, Enoch Burke, who will spend this Christmas in a jail cell in Mountjoy. So Enoch Burke refuses to say that men or women, refuses to teach his students transgenderism. And so now he's going to jail. He's going to jail for Christmas for contempt of court because he refuses to say that a man is a woman, and he refuses to indoctrinate his students. A tragedy. An absolute tragedy. All right, we're almost out of time here. So let me decide what we want to cover. I'm going to put some of these other things down. Let's do this. This is some breaking news today. Eric Adams, on his way out, Eric Adams signs anti-BDS executive order in veiled swipe at Mayor-elect Mamdani. Well, that's the New York Post headline. Well, we all know that Eric Adams went to Israel recently. So Eric Adams is an Israeli loyalist. He knows that Mamdani isn't, so he's trying to sign laws to protect Israel before Mamdani takes over. That's what that is. So Mamdani responded to that. This was earlier today. Mamdani responding to the Israel protection laws that Eric Adams passed before leaving office right after visiting Israel.
The mayor is free to issue as many executive orders as he'd like with the less than 30 days that he has in office. And then we will be taking a look at every single one once we actually enter into city.
By the way, Netanyahu says he plans to visit New York City despite Mamdani's claim that he would have him arrested. Let's see that showdown. Who are you rooting for? Man, I wish Trump would take it. I wish Trump would take it. I wish Trump would arrest Netanyahu. Man, Trump, you'd be the hero of the world. You would be. Trump is so obsessed with being the hero of the world. And that would be the number one thing he could do, to be the hero of the world. Would help Mamdani. If Netanyahu takes the bait and goes to New York, help Mamdani, arrest him. If you wanted to be the hero for the world, that would do it. And I know you want it, Trump. I'm telling you, it'd be the most legendary thing you could do. And Netanyahu has been lying to the United States and getting us involved in wars on Israel's behalf, killing hundreds of thousands of people, tens of thousands of Americans. It couldn't be more justified. Well, I can dream, can't I? Apollo CEO. I do wonder if that standoff is going to happen. Apollo CEO Mark Rowan declares New York City Mayor-elect Mamdani's enemy of Jews for normalizing anti-Semitism. That's ironic. That's ironic because, Mamdani, after he won the election, he went and met with the Jewish rabbis of the Orthodox Jewish Church there in New York that were very supportive of Mamdani. Some of his biggest supporters were the Orthodox Jews in New York City. So, and by the way, Jews continue to vote more Democrat than Republican. So I'm not really sure if that sticks. But they try it. Anybody they don't like, they just call an anti-Semite. But they don't really like anybody anymore. So when everybody's an anti-Semite, nobody's an anti-Semite. All right. The Charlie Kirk situation is back in the news today. And I said this earlier, and I'll kind of stick by it. There's some things I'd like to say. There's some things I'd like to say about it, but I'm going to not say it yet. I may, if we get to December 10th and we still get nothing new as far as the investigation is concerned, which I'm not saying I expect anything new. The court date isn't till, I think, January 16th is Tyler Robinson's court date. And the FBI has shown no interest in doing a real press conference after this. So I don't expect anything to change. But if we get to that 3-month mark, I might say some things that are on my mind. So this is Tyler Boyer. He is with Turning Point USA. And he's sharing this. Only 1 in 4 believe Charlie Kirk's assassin is a leftist, or you might say Tyler Robinson. MRC polls, less than 25% believe Charlie Kirk's killer is leftist. Now look at the propaganda here. Less than 25% correctly identified Charlie Kirk's killer as left-wing. Well, he's innocent till proven guilty. So what happened to innocent till proven guilty on the right wing? That's pretty alarming, actually. That's pretty alarming. That's pretty scary. And then it was amplified by Jack Posobiec today. A new poll finds that only 24% of likely voters say Charlie Kirk's assassin was a radical leftist. This shows the complete failure of conservative media to explain the nature of the Marxist color revolution we are facing. The stakes are life and death. Well, actually, no. Now, if Jack wants to believe, if Jack is convinced that Tyler Robinson is Charlie Kirk's assassin, then that's fine. He can reach that conclusion. I don't know what evidence. The evidence that Jack claims, and he did a post about all the evidence the other day, but the big evidence that Jack claims is that his parents turned him in, which to me is nonsensical because anybody could identify their kids at a picture at an event and say, yes, that's my son. That doesn't prove anything. That doesn't prove he took the shot. But regardless, you know what? Reach whatever conclusions you want. I don't believe the official narrative. If you do, fine. But here's where it's just completely wrong in my eyes. To say that, look, only one in 4 people believe the official narrative of Charlie Kirk's assassin. That actually shows how weak the evidence is. That actually shows that Candace Owens is doing a better job in presenting her case than anybody else right now, because they all want to blame Candace Owens. Now, I don't think it is Candace Owens. He says this shows the complete failure of conservative media. Jack, this shows the complete failure of the FBI. Let's call it what it is. Let's stop taking veiled attacks on Candace Owens. Let's stop taking veiled attacks at conservative alternative media. Let's stop taking veiled attacks at people that don't trust the federal government. All of that is totally fair. Let's stop taking those attacks. This is not a failure of media. This is not a failure of conservatives. This is not a failure of anybody. This is a failure of the FBI. And if you're really dead set on convincing people that Tyler Robinson is the killer, and that is your true motive here, and you really believe that needs to happen, then why aren't you calling out the FBI? Because it's simple as this. Forget all the conspiracy theories, forget all the coverage, forget all the attacks and infighting and claims and issues, forget it all. This can all be put to bed with one single video that they still refuse to release. And it's not Candace Owens holding it back. It's not the right-wing media holding it back. It's not conservatives holding it back. It's the FBI. So, Jack, if you really want to put an end to the conspiracy theories, and if you really want to see the poll say 100% of people think that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, then you need to be telling the FBI to release the video. They have the video. Tell me why. Tell me why. If you want to put it all to rest, if you want to truly put this all to rest, and you want America to know that it was Tyler Robinson and the radical Marxist left that did it, and everybody needs to know about that, then tell me why you're not demanding the FBI release the full video. They show us a video of Tyler Robinson. Well, what they claim is Tyler Robinson, but okay, I'll believe it's Tyler Robinson. They show us a video of Tyler Robinson running across the roof, sprinting across the roof, less than 3 seconds after the shot was taken. So he's like Flash Gordon, apparently, but all right, maybe he could move fast. But the FBI intentionally cut out the part of that video of him taking the shot. We know it's in frame. We know they could share that video, and we know that they specifically edited and released that video without Tyler Robinson taking the shot. Why? Why? That's not Candace Owens. That's not right-wing media. That's not conservative media. That's the FBI. Or is it UVU? Or is it local police? I don't know. But someone, somewhere, has that video of Tyler Robinson taking the shot. Or the video doesn't exist. Because he didn't take the shot. It's that simple. So forget about all the other stuff that doesn't make sense. Forget about him being Flash Gordon. Forget about the weird AI messages. Forget about the gun and was it together or where it ended up or any of that. Forget about the 30-06 and the magical neck spine situation. Forget about it all. You can put the whole thing to rest and convince 100% of people if you just show the video of him in the sniper position taking the shot, which we know you have because the video you shared of him running across the roof from the security video from behind, That position is in frame. It is in frame. So why don't we have the video? So I don't know why people are so mad. I don't understand. Why are people so mad? Fine, you want to take up beef with Candace Owens? Whatever. I just don't understand why there's this nastiness towards people that don't trust the FBI. I don't understand why there's this nastiness to people that don't trust the government that we know are liars. I don't know why there's this nastiness for people asking basic questions and noticing basic things that should be easily asked and answered and aren't. They never even gave a real press conference. So I don't like this. I don't like this nastiness and attacking people that are asking questions when we don't even get basic facts and answers from our own government. So there's no one else to blame. There is no one else to blame for the lack of trust. There's no one else to blame for less than a quarter of people polled believing the official narrative of Charlie Kirk. There is no one else to blame other than law enforcement. If they could convince us that Tyler Robinson was the killer, they would have already done it. Now, they might do it in court. We'll see what happens. We shall see what happens. But I don't understand this nastiness. There has not been convincing evidence. And in fact, all the evidence that we have access to, or the evidence that people have found themselves, has actually convinced people that Tyler Robinson was not the killer, not the shooter. So if anybody can put that to rest, it's the FBI. If anybody can put that to rest, or if anything can put that to rest, it's the video of him taking the shot, unless he didn't take the shot. And it's really that simple. But I got to tell you now, I'm afraid now that we have reached a threshold where no matter what happens, nobody's going to trust it, no matter what happens. And it's not going to be Candace Owens' fault. It's not going to be right-wing media or conspiracy theorists or anybody else's fault. It's going to be the lack of transparency. It's going to be the weird, strange, impossible things that we were told took place. All the strangeness, all the unconvincing materials. That's why people aren't going to believe it. And it has nothing to do with Candace Owens. If Candace Owens didn't even exist, if Candace Owens never even mentioned Charlie Kirk once, if Candace Owens never decided she was going to make the Charlie Kirk assassination a part of her show and she never mentioned it once, I guarantee you that poll number would still be the exact same. This has nothing to do with Candace Owens. This has everything to do with the evidence not convincing people and independent investigators finding their own evidence that convinces them that they've been lied to, not to mention a track record of us being lied to by the government and the FBI. We still don't even know what happened in the Vegas shooting. We got lied to about that. That was a giant cover-up. They tell us Thomas Crooks acted alone. So I'm sorry, no. This is all on the government. And if it really matters, to the people at Turning Point USA, or if it really matters to Jack, then he needs to put the pressure on the government and the law enforcement to come out and release their evidence to convince the American people. Because they could do it right now if they wanted to. But the longer they wait, the less people are going to trust it. And if they're waiting for the court case, all right, I understand. That's fine. Put your case together in the courtroom, but let's see how transparent that ends up being. Because by the time that court case happens, trust is going to be so low and people are already going to be so convinced of what they've already seen that it might not even matter. So again, if you want to convince people right now, and this is a big issue to you, this isn't about the media, this isn't about Candace Owens, this isn't about conservatives. This is about, they showed us a video of Tyler running across the roof that could have included the video of Tyler taking the shot, and they didn't show it to us. Why? Why? People are going to ask why, and they're going to answer that question for themselves. And what conclusion do you think they're going to reach? There's really only two conclusions they can reach out of that. So that's where it is. That's where it is. All right. We're done. We are done here today for the Owen Report. Big day in the news. I didn't even get all the news off the desk. We still got a ton of news on the desk that we didn't even get to. But that's all right. We did a pretty good job. We did a pretty good job for today. I can't believe tomorrow's going to be Friday, too, but it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Remember to subscribe, rumble.com/Owen. Remember to subscribe, The Owen Report on YouTube. Follow us on X at Owen Schroyer 1776. Hopefully, I'll have some new merch at owenschroyer.store tomorrow. I'm working on a new hat design right now, but it's still in the conceptual phase. Stay tuned for more. God bless. Godspeed. 21-hour break. We'll do it same time, same place tomorrow.